yes.
Hello, everyone. I want to welcome you to day 2 of the Poetry Production Masterclass. I'm super excited to have you in class today. Just to be sure you can see the slide and you can hear me loud and clear, I would like to get response from us.
Good evening. I think I can hear you loud and clear over here. Thank you.
Awesome. I would like to get more response from us. If you can hear me and you can see the slide, I would like to get response from us. Dr. Dante, Farmer Patience, Farmer Peculiar, Farmer Promise, Farmer Rose, Sir William, Farmer Umar. If you can hear me and you can see this, I would like to hear from you.
Good evening. I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay.
Yeah, good evening, Patience. I can hear you.
Awesome. Okay, so I want to welcome us especially to the day 2 of the Poetry Production Masterclass. My name is Innocent. I'm not going to waste my time, or I'm not going to waste time introducing myself again. So today we are going to continue from where we stopped yesterday. Yesterday, we established the reason why we are here. So today we are going to build on that foundation which we laid yesterday. And so just to remind you what you stand to gain by being part of this training, kindly mute your mic if you're not speaking so that we can have smooth session today. So what you will gain from this masterclass, for being part of this masterclass, you can't be part of our training and fail in poultry farming because you will receive comprehensive training and also knowledge on how to start, run, and grow a successful poultry farm anywhere you are around the world. You will also be part of a family dedicated to your success. You will also receive free consultancy services and continuous lifetime mentorship. Some of the add-ons are the bill of quantity, the poultry farm record template, and software which we are going to share with you, and tons of resources we are going to share with you in the group. Without wasting much time, let's go right into what we have for today. And so yesterday we laid the foundation of commercial poultry farming by introducing you to the various poultry niches you can actually involve in. Then we also laid the foundation as to how you can start commercial poultry farming and all the factors you need to consider. If you were not in class on day 1, you can watch the recorded version of the session we had yesterday. Without wasting much time, let's go into what we have for today. Today, basically, we are going to focus on layers farming and broiler brooding and pullet brooding. How do we brood chickens and how do we ensure we have the least possible mortality rate? And how do we start a layer farm? If you're interested in layer farming, I advise you to get a pen and paper because you're going to learn a lot today. This is your class. So layer farming and management, that is what we are going to focus mainly on today. And so this whole training, we are focusing on 3 aspects, but today we are going to focus on layer. We're going to focus on layers farming. We're going to focus on broiler production and management, and then turkey farming and management. But today we are going to focus majorly on layers farming. Just to remind you why you should start one. Starting a layer farm, you don't really need to do rigorous marketing because customers, they look for you. People are looking for eggs. Egg distributors are everywhere and they keep on disturbing. Even right now in Nigeria, there's massive demand. In Ghana, in other parts of the world, there's massive demand for egg. It's just a general something. And the demand is actually higher than the supply currently because of the inflation around the world. The cost of feed in Nigeria, in Cameroon, in Kenya, in South Africa, and Ghana, they have gone up. And so it's not just in Nigeria. I have colleagues, around the world, and we interact every now and then. So everything cut across the world. So commercial poultry farming, especially layer farming, is a good niche because customers look for you. In fact, you can't meet the demand. When you start, you will understand what I'm saying. And people who have started, they can share their story with us. Another thing again is that it has zero competition. Fellow egg producers will send customers to you if they don't have eggs. And that is one thing about egg producers. They send customers to you because they can't meet the demand. There's nothing like, oh, I'm not going to give my fellow egg producers customers. Then it is also lucrative. As we move on, we are going to learn more about this. And so layers production is a marathon race. And I used to refer to it as a marathon race because it's not something that you invest in and then, get the money back. For example, like broiler farming, which is like a sprint. Within 6 weeks or so, you know your fate. That is not the case when it comes to egg production. It's a marathon race. So you're going to get consistent revenue for about 1.5 years. And if you intend to keep them longer, you can even keep them up to 2 years. And so I love egg production because it gives you, daily income, which I really, really love. And so layer farming, if you are interested in layer farming, as I established yesterday, layer farming is basically for those who are interested in egg production. And so as we move on, we are going to learn more about layers generally. So layers management, I used to liken layers to a pregnant woman because what a pregnant woman eats, drinks, and also their environment affect their performance. And so that also applies to layers. Layers, they are like pregnant women. And what they eat, what they drink, and their environment affect their performance. And so layers are always pregnant and they give birth every 26 hours in their prime age. And so what are they giving birth to? They are giving birth to eggs. So they are giving you eggs every 26 hours in their prime. So they are always pregnant and they have a lot of eggs in their ovary, so they release it every 26 hours. So I consider them as pregnant women who are continuously pregnant. And so layers are also selfish. You have to satisfy them first before they can satisfy and reward you with good production. In other words, if you reduce their feed, for example, you are supposed to feed your birds 10 bags per day. And because you want to play smart, you decide to give them 7 bags. I can assure you that they will not give you or they will not produce the way they're supposed to produce because you do not give them the right quantity of feed. And so they will not produce up to the optimum level. So you can't just joke with them. You have to really satisfy them first before they can satisfy you. And hence the reason I refer to them as selfish animals. Another thing again is that if you subject them to stress, their production will reduce. So everything that has to do with broilers, that has to do with layers rather, you have to be really careful. You don't just introduce drugs to them anyhow. You don't do anything anyhow to them. If you do, it's going to rub off on them and it's going to rub on their production. As we move on, we are going to know more about how we can take care of broiler production or how we can take care of broilers, layers rather. So how to start a layer farm? You want to start layer farm? That is what you are interested in. You're not interested in broilers, you are interested in layers. So how do you start one? So you have actually 2 routes to start layer production. Anywhere you are around the world, you have 2 options to choose from. So you need to decide the farming type and the housing system. As we move on, you're going to see the housing system. But first off, let us consider
You
the...
say you'll check for the cutlass tomorrow, Abi? Voila. That tomorrow, so I suppose come.
Please, mute your mic.
Okay.
Mute your mic, please. So the 2 options available, we have the leasing and then you constructing your pen house from the scratch. And so if you want to start layer farming, you have just two options that you can explore. The leasing a poultry farm, look for abandoned poultry farm around you. Enter an agreement with them. For example, you want to start layer farming and you do not have the fund, you can decide to search around your area or where you intend to have the poultry farm and look for maybe farms that are just idle, that are not, nobody is using them. You can talk to the owner and then start production. However, it's kind of now common to have farms that people are not using, but you may be lucky to see a farm like that. Another option, which is the most popular option, is you buying a piece of land and construct, your penthouse based on your budget and based on your taste and based on the number of chickens you want to raise. For example, you want to raise 3,000, you can decide to buy a plot of land. You want to raise 500 or 1,000, you can, buy a plot of land and has poultry care or any service, poultry service provider in your country to design and construct a penthouse for you. And we can also guide you from a distance if you decide to construct your own penthouse. So these are basically the two options you have to start your poultry farm. Another option or another thing you need to do is to decide on the housing system you want to use for your egg production. We have about 7 options when it comes to the housing system. The housing system simply means the management system. Do you want to manage them on the floor, which we call deep litter housing system, in the cage, or slotted, or battery cage, or high-rise, and so on? As we move on, you're going to see more of these. And so the first option is the free-range housing system. The free-range housing system, you can decide to raise your chickens using the free-range housing system. You can also decide to raise your chickens using avian housing system or aviary housing system, which we call it. You can also decide to use deep litter housing system, which is the same thing as floor housing system. You can decide to use slotted or slated housing system or battery cage housing system or high-rise housing system or ECS, environmentally controlled housing system. It could be deep litter environmental control housing system or battery cage environmental control housing system. As we move on, you are going to see the pictures. So this is the free range housing system. In free range housing system, what you do, you are going to get a large area of land. For example, you want to raise just 1,000, you're going to have like 2 acres of land for you to be able to raise 1,000 capacity layers. Why? Because you need a large area of land that your chickens can forage. For example, they will go to one side today, tomorrow they go to another side, and so on. So you need a lot of land. You need a lot of land. So in this housing system, you're going to have a shade. You're going to still have a shade whereby when it is dark, they go inside that shade. And then in the morning, as early as 4 a.m., anytime they choose to go out, they go out on their own, or you have a routine for them. So time, naturally, they will go inside the house themselves, or you guide them into the house. And then once it is morning, you can open the place and they will go out themselves, or you have a specific time that you open the house for them. So you can decide to make it 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. for them to go out. But naturally, chickens like to go out early, like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. So this housing system, what are the advantages? The advantage is that if you are in the West, if you are in Europe or United States, definitely your eggs will command high premium price. So you're not going to sell your eggs. The eggs from free range housing system is more expensive compared to battery cage and deep litter, simply because over there, the animal welfare campaign against chicken welfare is really, really high. So people are willing to encourage people to raise chickens naturally like this, and they are willing to pay premium price it commands. However, that is not the case when it comes to Africa. In Africa, in Asia, Middle East, and developing countries generally, they don't know what is called free range. What they want is just chickens, chickens that can lay eggs, and they want to buy eggs, and that is what they are interested in. So if you decide to raise your chickens using the free range housing system, and then you sell at a high rate, I'm sorry, nobody's going to buy them, from you. Even the ones that are raised in deep litter housing system or battery cage, they are also complaining about the price. So imagine you double the price, because most times free range, you have to double the price for you to make profit. As you can see, it requires a lot of manpower. For example, 1,000, you are going to need at least 3 people or even 4 people to manage 1,000 capacity poultry farm, especially for the free range. Why? Because these chickens, they lay the eggs anyhow. So you have to go up and down picking the eggs, and most times you may step on the eggs. And then you also need to, secure the place. You have to fence the place, and you need to also be on the guard just to protect your birds against predators. Moving on to the popular housing system, deep litter housing system. As you can see, the advantage of this housing system is that it's easy to start up. You can also raise your birds, maintaining one pen house. My friend here on the right, on the left rather, likes this housing system, but the last time we discussed, he want to change to battery cage housing system, but he really liked this because he said he liked his boss to be roaming around and all that. However, when it comes to deep litter housing system, it requires more manpower. As you can see, you need to change the beddings every now and then when it is due. For example, depends on the season and depends on the management. It can last up to a month or even more, or it can last for just 1 week for you to change the beddings. So you will be looking for wood shavings up and down. Most times you may not even see wood shavings. So these are just the disadvantages of the deep litter housing system. Another disadvantages is that deep litter housing system, if you do not pick the eggs, about 30% of the eggs will be gone. Why? Because there are some egg eaters that will go to the nest boxes and just eat the eggs. Another thing again, the eggs may be dirty uh, because some of those chickens that want to lay, they will step on the eggs already laid. So if you do not pick the eggs on time, you are likely going to pick dirty eggs compared to the battery cage housing system. Another disadvantage of this housing system is that the disease spreading is actually high. We carried out experiment whereby we attach a sensor to a chickens just to monitor the movement, how the chickens move. And after inserting it into the system, the movement of the chickens was known. Could you imagine that the chicken actually covered the whole pen house, going from one place, to the other and so on, from this angle to another angle. So if the chicken has disease, that chicken will spread the disease across the pen house. So that is just the major disadvantage when it comes to the deep litter housing system. However, it's a very good housing system. This is the most popular housing system back then. And I really, really love this, system. Another thing again is when it comes to heat stress. During heat stress, the chickens, they tend to, have upper hand because they will, dig the ground or look for wood shaving and then try to cool off. However, your chickens cannot do that inside the cage. You have to help your chickens. Another good thing about this housing system is that there is no, boycotting of buying eggs from people who raise their chickens on deep litter housing system in the West. In developing countries and in Europe, there's no boycotting of buying eggs from farmers who raise their chickens on deep litter system because it looks natural compared to raising them inside the cage. So moving on to the egg aspect, please, you need to mute your mic if you're not speaking. You are actually disturbing the class. Moving on to this housing system, the deep litter housing system, as I said before, you can raise your chickens just inside one pen. You can maintain one pen house, which is one of the advantages of having a battery cage or a deep litter housing system rather. You can raise your chickens, you can brood them inside this pen house, and when they grow or when they are out of the brooding phase, you can remove the tarpaulin and they will grow inside. And once they clock 18 weeks old or 17 weeks old, you can install nest boxes. Can we see the nest boxes? The one on the right. As you can see, these are nest boxes. So once they clock 17, we install the nest boxes for them so that they can get used to the nest boxes before they commence the actual egg laying. So I love this housing system because it's easy to start. You don't need to have fancy equipment to start this housing system or to start your farm. And so the startup cost is usually low, and I highly encourage you to do it. Now, you can also decide to, if you're starting for the first time and you want to brood your chickens, you can have what we call this pit. The picture on the left is a pit where we install battery cage on. So you can decide to construct your pen house with the pit like this, but you're not going to install the cages. You're going to brood the chickens inside, allow them to grow inside, and once they clock 14 weeks old or 15 or 16, you ask your cage supplier or fabricator to install the cage for you. So they're going to come and install. As they are installing the cages, they are going to be transferring the chickens inside the cages. What we do in this kind of situation, which is usually once in a while, maybe once in 2 years or 3 years, based on my experience, at poultry care, we mobilize. For example, if one person supposed to install the cages, because we want to install the cages really, really fast, we can mobilize about 8 people so that we can install the cages really, really fast and transfer the chickens inside the cage. So these are just the options I want to really, show you. So as you can see, it's so easy, super easy. You can start at any level and scale. As I said before, you don't need to have fancy equipment, drinkers and feeders to start. You can improvise and can use all these do-it-yourself DIY options and get your farm, running. Another housing system that is also common is slate or slotted system. I love this housing system because it automatically, remove this, stress of you looking for wood shavings or what we call beddings. You don't need to be looking for wood shavings because these slates automatically take care of that. And so this is how it works. We usually install what we call platforms, and then we place these slots on it. You can also decide to use, bamboo tree. You cut it and then create a platform, elevated platform, and then place, the bamboo on it or wood on it. This method, what it does is that it makes your chickens to be neat, and then the waste, they go down this, and then you can decide to evacuate the manure anytime you feel like. And so I really love this housing system because of this reason. So it's just like this one, just like the deep litter housing system. However, you are installing the slate. You are installing the slate on it, and you can also make it higher than this, depends on what you want. And once maybe the place is due for you to evacuate the waste, you just remove and then remove the slates. That's the way we dismantle the slates, and then you evacuate the waste, and the chickens will continue their life again. And once it is due, you evacuate the waste. So it makes the job super, super easy when it comes to, managing the farm. Another housing system, which is the most common, and about 90% of people who keep layers across the world, they use battery cage housing system for one reason. It requires less manpower. It makes the management super easy. As you can see, and I explained this yesterday, a battery cage has all the necessary things your chickens need. It's more or less like during the COVID where you are now going out. That is how battery cage is. You have everything in your house. When you want to eat, you eat. When you want to do anything, you do it within your house. So it's more or less like house arrest. So battery cage housing system is a system whereby you raise your chickens inside a cage. It could be a wire cage, or it could be a wood cage or plastic cage. So this housing system is good for so many reasons. You can manage disease, better in this housing system. Your eggs, you can decide not to pick your eggs for 2 days or 3 days, and nothing will happen to the eggs, because once they lay the eggs rolls down to the egg basket. And once it rolls down to the egg basket, automatically they don't have access to it. When it comes to spreading, disease spreading, because they are restricted, the movement is restricted. If one chicken has disease, that disease may not, spread to the other side unless human being actually spread it during feeding or interaction. So when it comes to disease management, it makes it super easy, and it makes you to manage them effectively. Another good thing again is when you are carrying out let's say injection, you want to inject the birds, it's super easy because you just go inside, or you just open the door, and then take the chicken, inject, and put it back. And you can actually have up to 99% vaccination accuracy, because you would not miss any. So these are just the good thing about the battery cage housing system. Battery cage housing system started around 1840 something, when a farmer in the United States, according to the history, just just randomly, or just experiment, and he discovered that the chickens he kept inside the cages, they happens to perform better. Their eggs, they lay higher number of eggs compared to their counterparts on the floor. But that is not really correct to some extent. The difference is not that much. So I don't want to discourage you from raising your chickens on the floor. And so since then, when that information spread, companies started, developing and designing battery cages. And ever since, we have a lot of designs out there, but basically we have two major designs. We have the A-type design, and we have the H-type design. What you are seeing is the H-type design. The battery cage on the left is that of what we call, foreign cages, and the ones on the right is what we call local cages. As you can see, the aesthetics are actually different, and the cost is also different. So you can decide to go for the imported or the foreign one, or the locally fabricated one. Moving on to battery cage as well, just to show you, you can decide to go for this. It's a good housing system, and I highly recommend it. It makes your management easy. And so this is what we call the modern environmentally controlled housing system for layers. Environmentally controlled housing system simply means that irrespective of where you are or your it will not affect anything. For example, during winter or summer, because the environment is controlled, if the place is hot, maybe you are in Africa, the place is hot, of course, in Africa, the temperature is usually high. Because it's environmentally controlled, once the temperature is high, you can decide to use the HVAC system, which will cool down the pen house for you. And you can also maintain the temperature. You can decide to set the temperature to 25.5 degrees Celsius, or 26 degrees Celsius, or 27 degrees Celsius. And that is what it will be throughout the day, or throughout a given time. However, when it comes to the open-sided housing system, the one you are not controlling, you see that at times the temperature can be as high as 40 degrees Celsius, but at times it can be 32, other times 20 something, but in this housing system, the temperature is constant and chickens, they tend to perform better. And so in this housing system, everything is controlled. Everything is mechanized. You can be in your house and know what is happening. For example, if one of the system is not working, say for example, the temperature is too high, it will send message to you and say, oh, the temperature is really, really high. Maybe something is 40, you will know. That is how we know what is happening at the farm. Another thing again is that one person can manage a large, number of birds. For example, this farm, two people can manage it because everything is automated. You stay in one place and the eggs will be, coming to you. So you just press something and the eggs will come to you and you pick it. So we install HVAC system. As you can see, we have what we call the exhaust fans, those stuff you are seeing, and we have what we call cooling pad. And we also have a heater when we want to brood it. And during, let's say, a winter, you can decide to, activate your heating system to heat up the place. And hence the reason in Europe, you can have what we call open-sided housing system, this kind of housing system where everywhere is open. Why? Because when there is snow, everywhere is really, really cold, minus, 42 degrees Celsius or minus 18 degrees Celsius. Everywhere will be froze. Your chickens, they will not cope. They will not be able to cope. Your chicken can actually cope around, 25 degree to 25.5 degrees Celsius. That is the optimum temperature for your birds. Now, if it is minus, as you can see, they will be super cold. So in Europe, this is what they use mostly, this housing system, because of cold. You can easily heat up the house. Now, if you decide to heat up open-sided, as you can see like this, it's not possible. How do you want to conserve the heat? So hence the reason outside Africa, this is what they use mostly. Moving on to the other design, this is what we use for fully automated housing system, the H-type design. As you can see, we attach egg basket, egg collector machines. What you are seeing on the right is the egg collector machine that we collect the eggs automatically, and you just stay in one place and pick the eggs. We can also attach what we call the egg collector machine to A-type. This one you are seeing is not H-type design, is A-type design, and it has egg collector. So you can decide to attach egg collector to your H-type. Even this one you are seeing, you can decide to attach egg collector to it. But you need to inform your supplier that you want to have egg collector attached to your farm or to your cages. Then it will be incorporated into the costing, or they will advise you on the best A-type design to go for. As we move on, you're going to see more of this. So this is what we use to automate a battery cage housing system. So in this kind of housing system, everything is automated. The manure removal is automated, egg collection is automated, egg picking is automated. And so what do we use? These are the equipment or the systems that we use. We use what we call the belt conveyor belts to remove, the manures when we intend to remove the manures. Then we use what we call egg belts, which we drag the eggs to the egg collector machines or table, and then you pick the eggs. And then we use what we call side buckets as feeders automatically. Once you press the button, it will be rolling as it is rolling to be, serving the feed automatically. You can also decide to use what we call chain feeders. The chain feeder, instead of, attaching side bucket feeders or what we call upper, you just install chain feeders. The chain will just be rolling it to be, rolling along with feed continuously. And so these are just what we use to automate a battery cage system. And so I usually advise people to go for this system if you intend to have 10,000 capacity. However, the startup cost is usually really high. Just one set is about $1,500 or $1,200, including all the accessories per set. And one set can accommodate about 120 to 128. Some can accommodate up to 160, depends on the tiers and the design. So as you can see, it also requires, power up to 247 if you intend to run your power 247, but you can decide to on the gen or activate your power system when you want to pick the hex. You just on the generator. You on the generator during the time you want to pick the eggs, and when you want to evacuate the waste, you on your gen to evacuate with the waste. As you can see, it requires a lot of expenses, but the advantage is that it reduces your manpower. It also makes the job super easy. So moving on to the most popular, this is the most popular cage system or cage design in the whole world. This is the most common, and in Africa, this is the most common. So it has no, fancy gadget like that. As you can see, you're going to feed the birds manually, and then you are going to evacuate the waste when it is time. You can decide to install what we call manure uh, removing machine inside the pit. This pit you are seeing. So we install, manual removal machine, and then anytime the waste is due, let's say every 2 days or every 3 days or every day at the end of the day, you just, press the button, and then the manual removal machine or manual scraper will just scrape the waste to a particular point. Then you can use shovel to remove the waste. And so this housing system is actually a good housing system, especially if you have the fund for the battery cage, because battery cage is really expensive. So it depends on your startup capital. I also want to let you know that this is 3 tiers. And as you can see, this particular cage design can accommodate 120 chickens. I want to chip in something. As you can see, this battery cage has about 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It has 5 compartment, and each compartment, based on the design outside Africa, because of their environment, you are supposed to place 4 chickens per compartment or per cell. However, in Africa, because of our temperature, I do not recommend you place 4 chickens per cell. If you do, your chickens, they are going to struggle, especially during their prime age. Between 20 to 40 weeks old, they will still have a lot of feathers, and so the space will not be that convenient for them to accommodate the 4 chickens. So I usually recommend that you place at least 3 chickens, per cell. If you place 3 chickens per cell, automatically it will help your chickens to be comfortable. Just look at this. These chickens, they are not comfortable. And I told us earlier that if your chickens are not comfortable, if you do not treat your chickens well, they will not give you the best result. This alone can reduce the performance of your flock. If they are supposed to give you, let's say, 85% or 90%, because of high density, their production may be reduced to up to 75 or 80 something because of high density. They're not, comfortable. Then when you want to buy or you want to construct your penthouse, you need to ask your egg or your cage supplier so that you know the dimension of the cage. And then you can tell your contractor to, base the pit. Can you see the pit on the right? I want to be sure if we are following. Are we following, please?
Yes.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, so you have to ask your cage supplier about the dimension of the cage they are going to supply to your farm, so that when you are constructing the pit you are seeing, you are going to make the pit to fit into the what is it called, the frame of the battery cage. As you can see for this one, the width, that is to say the wideness, will be about 2 meters or 2.2 meters. So when you are creating the pit, you are going to create it like 2.2 meters if the width of the cage is 2.2 meters. And then if the width is 2 meters, then your pit should be 2 meters. I have gone to so many farms that I see tiny pits. So the tiny pit, the feces will not go inside the pit. The feces will be dropping on the walkways, and it will make the place messy. So you want a situation whereby as the feces, that is to say their droppings or poop, as they are releasing their poop, it will go right inside the pit. If you get the pit dimension right, it will go right inside the pit, and you can easily flush it if you decide to use water, or if you decide to use manure removal or manure scraper to scrape it. It will scrape everything easily. So moving on to Ivory housing system, this is actually a glorified battery cage housing system. It came about as a result of the animal welfare in Europe and in developed countries, because people were boycotting eggs from battery cage, because they believe that is animal, you are suffering the animal, or you are inconveniencing the animal cannot, exhibit natural behaviors and so on. So some supermarket will not even accept your eggs based on my experience. So you have to, sell to supermarket that accepts eggs from battery cage. And so if you intend to start your poultry farm in Europe, where there are laws that ban the use of battery cages, then this is what you are going to use instead. But in Africa, there is no law like that. So as you can see, this Ivory housing system is just a glorified battery cage housing system. However, the chickens, they have access to perches, they can fly, they can exhibit natural attributes. However, this housing system is so stressful. Why? You are going to use what we call beddings, and then you're going to be removing the beddings as well. Another thing again is the chickens, you're going to teach them how to lay inside the nest boxes. And so this housing system is not as convenient as the battery cage housing system. The battery cage housing system is the most convenient housing system when it comes to raising layers. Moving on to high-rise or elevated system, you can decide to construct your pen this way. One of the advantage of this housing system is that it offers better cross ventilation. It makes waste removal easier without automation or machine or manual scraper. However, it is more expensive to construct. Another thing I like about this housing system is that it's actually minimizes its stress. When there is a heat wave, if you have this kind of housing system, you won't have heat stress that much, because the chickens, they are actually up, so there's a better cross ventilation for them. However, it is more expensive. If you want to construct this penthouse, it's going to cost you about 3 times the normal housing. So as you can see, it's a good housing system. However, it's expensive. And this housing system is good in Africa, in Middle East, in Asia, and it's a good housing system. So now that you know the housing system, let us go into how you can actually decide on the breed. We have different breeds out there, and so let us look at the breeds to choose, or the breeds on the market. So chicken breed selection, this is important, because if you buy the wrong breed, or if you stock the wrong breed, you will not get the results you're supposed to get. We once had a client who didn't know He went and purchased what we call dual purpose chickens, cockerel, I say cockerel, noila. So he went to buy dual purpose chickens from day old. And then he thought, because they gave good review about the breed, oh, they don't need too much feed, they don't die easily and so on. So he decided to buy them and raise them. So he didn't know. So he bought them, and at some point he sexed them, that is, he removed the male from the female, then he stuck the female inside the battery cage. Now, their production is actually low. It's not like the hybrid. It's not like the real, layers whose job is to lay eggs. The dual purpose chickens, they are good for both meat and for egg production, but it's more or less like master jack of all trade, master of none. So they do not, have upper hand when it comes to egg production, despite the fact that you can throw anything at them and they will eat and they will survive. They are glorified village chickens, they will survive and so on, but they don't lay good eggs. So when it comes to chickens breed selection, these are the things we look at. We look at the source. Which company produce the breed? What are their reputation? We also look at the livability. The livability simply means the survival rate. How often do they die? For example, you keep them. Do they die? This kind of breed, do they die, easily? Then you look at the growth rate. Are they fast, growing birds or slow growing birds? You also consider, the disease resistance. You consider what we call feed conversion ratio influence. You also consider the performance data. As we move on, you're going to see performance data of these breeds. And you also consider testimonials from people, then personal experiences, then you can also decide to try them, try different ones, then decide on the one you want to go for. So when it comes to chicken, these are the things we consider. And then when it comes to you buying car, just to, compare the two. So when you want to buy your car, you look at the cost, you look at the prestige, comfort, reliability, cost of maintenance, are there, mechanics around to buy. That also applies to chickens. Do vets, around you or in your country, do they understand that breed? Do they know how to take care of the breed? So you need to consider some of these things. As we move on, you're going to see more. So we have two types of chickens, basically, whether they are hybrid or whatever, whether they are cockerel or dual purpose or they're not dual purpose. We classify chickens into two. We have what we call pure breed and we have what we call hybrid. I would like to make this class interactive. So which one do you think is the best when it comes to, egg production? Is it pure breed or hybrid? I would like to get a response from us.
I don't know, but I'm not an expert, but I want to go for the hybrid. I think hybrid.
Okay, why are you going for hybrid?
because it's hybrid. Because I think by the name it means that it's an improved version of the original. So maybe they have considered a lot of things in the genetic constitution.
Okay.
And that makes it, to me, a better production line than the pure breed.
Oh, great. Thank you so much for that contribution. Elohim says, former Elohim says hybrid. Brandy went for hybrid. Mr. Deji went for pure breeds. Okay. Mr. Talent says hybrid, went for hybrid. Okay. Sir Williams, hybrid. I think most people went for hybrid. Okay. So let us look at the differences. So pure breed versus hybrids. The advantage of pure breeds. And let us define pure breed. Pure breed, they are chickens that are just pure. Nothing like, genetic improvement. They're just the way, to some extent, naturally, without anything, or the way they were captured back then, in the forest. And so nothing like, lab improvement on them or genetic engineering on them. So they are just pure breed. So we refer to them as pure breed. And so what are the advantages when it comes to pure breeds? One of the good things about them is that they can live longer, just like your village chickens. The village chickens, they are pure breeds. So they live longer. They can live up to 5 years, even more. However, hybrids, lifespan is around 3 years or 4 years maximum. So they also produce longer. They don't give you eggs, within a short time, but they produce longer. Their prime is actually longer compared to hybrid. They also produce lower eggs. They consume more feed. For example, hybrid can consume about 150 grams or even 180 grams per day. For hybrid, we consume about 115 grams per day. Can you see the massive difference? If you have large number of flock, that is a lot of difference. And they will not produce the egg they're supposed to produce. So they consume more feed. They are also hostile. They are not friendly. They are suitable for backyard farming. They also have high disease resistance. You can throw anything at them and they will survive. You can decide to give them scraps and anything. They can survive and also give you eggs, from time to time. But that is not the case when it comes to hybrid. So what is hybrid? Hybrid chickens are chickens whose genetic line has been tampered with. So there's what we call breeding programs. Breeding programs actually is what gave us hybrids. So you are taking the good attributes or characteristics from different chickens and add them together using genetic engineering. So if you see a chicken, for example, oh, I like the color of this chicken. I like the color. Oh, I like the eyes. I like the beak. Once you see that kind of chicken, you keep that chicken. And then you see another chicken. Wow, this pure breed, they lay eggs. Wow, they are very, very good when it comes to laying eggs. They lay eggs very well. I like the eggs. You take that chicken. You see another chicken, very tall. Wow, I like this. This is the kind of characteristics I want. You take that particular chicken as well. Then you see another one, let's say disease resistance. This particular breed doesn't die easily. Once you see that kind of chicken, you take it. And then after you accumulate or you gather all the chickens, you now start taking, you start taking, you start taking, it's either you do what we call artificial insemination, or you just take whatever you are looking for in them using genetic engineering, or you crossbreed them, and then you are going to have what we call hybrid. So we are not in genetic class, so I'm not going to waste our time on this. Just to give you an idea of what hybrid is. So hybrid is actually from pure breed. You combine a lot of pure breeds, and we actually get hybrid using what we call breeding program. So they are genetic companies. Their job, they don't raise chickens and sell the eggs. Their job is to do what? Is to produce hybrids, improve hybrid. Hence the reason we have different hybrids. We have different names. We have Isa Brown, Highland Brown, Lawman Brown, and so on. These are genetic companies. They produce, just like cars. We have Toyota producing different brands and so on. So we have genetic companies. Their job is to do what? To embark on breeding programs, and then they give you amazing hybrids. Hence the reason we have chickens that are laying one egg in 26 hours. Your pure breed cannot do that. They lay eggs in clutches. And the good ones, they can lay eggs in 26 hours. Some of them, they will lay eggs around, let's say, 60 hours or 50 hours in their prime. So as you can see, hybrid win the race when it comes to commercial poultry farming. So this is the breeding scheme. I'm not going to waste my time on this. Hendrix Genetic is one of the big player or leader when it comes to breeding program. They have a lot of, breeds, the pullets, the layers, the broilers. They are really, really, really big company. And this is how genetic companies produce breed. So when you have pure lines, as I was saying, you have good ones, you just take one, you take the breed, then you have another pure line that you like, you had them, can you see A and B, then you put them together. You can use artificial insemination for mating, or you just allow them to mate naturally. But most time we use what we call artificial insemination to carry out the breeding program. So as you can see, you have A and B, AA and BB, and then you have CC and DD. This is a breeding program. And so when you crossbreed AA and BB, then you're going to have A. Then you crossbreed again, okay, someone says, what is the life expectancy? The life expectancy for Highland, for hybrid, is about 3 years. They can stay up to 3 years and they will not die. So as you can see, you crossbreed and you get A, and then B and B mates, or you using artificial insemination, what they produce, or if the chicken lay eggs, their egg is now B. If AA, mates, what they produce is now, the A breed that you're going to use as your grandparent stock. And then you have CC and DD and so on. Then as you can see, you have at the beginning, you have a lot of chickens, but as you are, moving downward from your grandparent stock to parent stock and then commercial layers. Now, the grandparent stock is actually owned by the genetic companies. Then the eggs laid by the grandparent stock are the ones that we buy and then hatch as parent stock. So the parent stock will stay on your farm, and the eggs they lay, that is what we hatch and sell to farmers. So as you can see, it's a chain. It's a breeding chain. And most times, some people or some companies, they don't want to involve themselves in this. They either play their game as genetic companies and not involved in hatching, and some, they will just play their game in the hatching aspect. So it depends on where you want to play your game. But genetic companies, their job is to give you the parent stock and not the grandparent stock. So in every company, or in every country rather, we have what we call agents, or what we call franchise. For example, in a country, Highland brand, we give franchise, or we sell the franchise to one company to have access to the grandparent stock or the parent stock. They can ship it to that company, and then the farm will grow the parent stock, and the eggs lays. The farmer or the hatchery we hatch the egg and sell to farmers. And so it is what we call, license. So if you want to do this in your country, you can actually do it. You can, write the genetic companies that you want to have parent stock, and then they can ship the eggs to you and then guide you on what to do. If you are going into hatchery business. So if you are going into hatchery business, so this is how you need to specialize in. You need to get the parent stock, eggs, or the chicks, and then the eggs laid. That is what you are going to hatch and sell to farmers. So as you can see, the grandparent stock, from the pure line to grandparents, from parent to the grandparent to parent stock, and then the commercial breed, which we keep on our farms, as you can see. So this is just our breeding program. So the popular layer breeds in Africa, almost have the same management. So we are now going to, well, we are going to share the management guide to you in the group. They have management guide, so we're going to share the management guide to you, but the management is actually the same. So we have what we call Bovans, Nera Black, we have Decap Amberlink, we have Isa Brown, we have Island Brown, we have Loma Brown, we have host of others, but these are the top 5 when it comes to layer breed. So as you can see, let's look at the layers breed one after the other. Moving on to Decap Amberlink. So as you can see, I told us that when we are choosing a particular breed, we look at the livability. The livability will tell you if the breed is something you should try or consider. We also look at the peak production. At peak production, what can they give you? For example, you stock 100 chickens. At peak production, Decap Amberlink, if all things being equal, if you do the needful, your chickens are okay and everything is all right, they are fine. At peak production, let's say between 28 or 26 to 40, they can do up to 97% before the production nosedive. So 97%, that is really, really high. Then based on Nigeria market, it is actually cheaper. Even outside Nigeria, Decap Amberlink is cheaper because of the demand. There's one good thing about Decap Amberlink, they don't lose their feather easily. So when chickens are aging, they tend to lose their feather. However, Decap Amberlink retain its feather. Nigerians do not like to buy in fact, Africa generally, I did not like to buy, the spent layers. Why? Because they are white. That is what I was telling us about market research. You want to carry out market research. Do people actually buy spent layers that are white? Of course, the people that are buying 1 and 2 or something, they don't like white. They are used to brown. Or chicken processors, whether it's brown or black, they will buy, but they can actually use that to price you down. That's you have white. No, we are looking for brown. So just to let you know. And then they can lay up to 475 plus within 18 to 100 weeks old. As I said before, once they can give you this within 18 to 100 weeks old, what is your business, keeping them longer? Moving on to Bovan Black, we have what we call Bovanera Blacks or Bovan Black or white or brown, depends on the one you are buying, but most of these breeds that are blacks is usually Bovanera Black. So let us look at the production. Availability is, let's say roughly 93%. They are saying at 80 weeks old, if you stock 100, between 18, all these production summaries is actually from 18 weeks old. So if you stock 80 at if you stock 100, for example, let's say 1,000, for example, let's say point of lay, you stock point of lay 16 or 18, they are saying at 80 weeks old, livability is 95%. What they are saying is that you are going to lose up to 5%, roughly. It may not be up to that. They can die as a result of so many reasons, heart failure, with disease, or something. But they are telling you that their survival rate at 80% from 100, it will be 95%. As they are aging, as you can see, 94%. At 100, 93%. So when people say, oh, chickens are dying, no, this is the normal stuff, just like humans. In a city, you have people dying, but you don't know because the person that passed away, you don't know the person. But in every city, in your city, people passed away today, but you do not know because the person is not close to you. When it comes to chicken as well, your farm is like a city. So you should expect your chickens to die as a result of heart attack or system failure and so on, or dying in their sleep. So all these things, genetic companies also incorporate them into the calculation and give you a summary or production summary. Then at peak production, at 145 days, they are saying that they will eat at least 50% production. If you do the maths, 145 days, that is about, let me divide it by 30. 145 divided by 30, that is months. So they are saying roughly 5 months, 5 months, that is around 20 weeks old or 21 weeks old, if all things being equal, they will eat 50% production rate. Remember that your chickens, once they commence egg production, all of them will not start egg production at the same time. And so at 20 weeks old or 21 weeks old, they are saying you are going to get 50% of egg must have commenced egg production. Then let us look at their daily feed intake. Let me check their daily feed intake. It's not here. No, it's not. Okay, it's here. Can you see the average feed intake? Are we following, please? I would like to get a response from us.
Yes.
Okay, so the average feed intake is 120 grams per bird. Let's say at 18 weeks old, going to 20 at their prime. Prime is usually around 28 weeks old or 30. Let's assume 30. At 30 weeks old, one chicken will be consuming 120 grams. Then at 90, the daily feed intake will reduce. So one chicken will consume 119 grams. At 100 weeks old, it reduced to 118 grams. So these are just summary, and these are what we look at before we choose. And then this breed can give you between 400 and up to 451 eggs, between 18 to 100 weeks old. So if you can get even 350 or 400 eggs within this period, you don't need to keep them longer. Moving on to one of the popular breed, Lohmann Brown. Lohmann Brown is owned by German company or breeding company. This one you are seeing, Bovanera, is owned by American company, and Netherlands genetic company. This one too is owned by American company as well as Netherlands genetic company. So as you can see, when we look at this one, they are telling you that at 40, they will eat 50% production, and their peak production 94 is between 94 to 96. Now, if we have to, rate this breed in terms of using just peak production performance, as you can see, this one, peak production, where is the peak production? Peak production, it will be, can you see? 94. Can you see peak production? So if I want to choose terms of peak production, I will go for this. Can you see? Now, in terms of peak production as well, look at Decap Amber Lake. 97%, whopping 97%. So if you are choosing that, if you are using that as deciding factor. Now look at 72 weeks old, eggs per hen house, that is to say the cumulative eggs laid at 72 weeks old, between 18 to 72 weeks old, one chicken will lay 324 pieces of eggs. At 80 weeks old, 367. If my chicken give me 367 at 80 weeks old, I will sell them. And if you keep them longer, they can lay up to 461 eggs. Can you see? And so let us look at the daily feed intake for them. Daily feed intake is not here. It's not here. But we'll see it as we move forward. Let us look at the live labelability. During the rearing period is 98 to 99%, amazing. And the laying period between 18 to, let's say, 100 to 72 weeks old, 95 to 96%. That is, you are going to lose about 5% of your flock. Then to 100, you are going to lose up to 10%. So I want you to know this, because when chickens are dying, some farmers, they will be so pained. No, this is a genetic stuff, and they are telling you that this is what is going to happen. So if you have 100 or let's say 1,000, expect to lose up to 100 out of your 1,000 chickens. Between the time you stock them at a point of lay and when you want to sell them, expect to lose up to 100 out of the 1,000. But that does not mean that you can lose up to 100. It means that that is the range. And you can also lose more than that if you do not manage your chickens well. Moving on to white leghorn. White leghorn, which is actually amazing chicken breed used in America a lot. It's actually a good breed. As you can see, the livability is 88%. And that livability is really, really low compared to others. Peak production, it can give you just 90%. Then the weight, it has a low weight. Then it's actually good for the Western climate. That is polar regions. Africans do not like to buy the hood layers. So due to some beliefs. Moving on to the most common breed in Africa, in fact, in the entire world, the Isa brand, which is also called the Obad Isa. The Isa is not a name of a person, it's just an abbreviation for Isa, which is Institute de Selection Animale. This breed was brought by a company, two companies merged together in France to breed this particular breed. However, they have sold this, their breed. So the headquarters is not domiciled in France again. It's now in Netherlands. So this breed is an amazing breed, and is the most housed chicken breed in Nigeria, in Africa. Based on my experience, this is the most housed. It's so common. So let us look at the performance. Viability at 80 weeks old, the genetic company says 94%. At 90 weeks old, it will drop to 93, and up to 100, you are going to get 93%. So what does that mean? If you stock 1,000 chickens, expect to lose about 70 between 18 to 100 weeks old. At peak production, it will give you 145. Can you see at peak production, you can get peak production at 96.5%. Then at age 50, at age 21 weeks old, the chicken can attain 50% production, provided that you do the needful. As we move on in the management aspect, you will see why you may not get 50% at 21 weeks old. If you do not do the needful, and if your birds do not reach the body weight target, they may not reach 50% at 21 weeks old or 22 weeks old. Now, let us look at the daily feed intake. At between 18 or at their peak 30 weeks old, one chicken we consume between 114 grams to 112 grams, so depending on the age. So at their peak production, they can even do 111 grams. Because every day, or I say every day, every year, new breeds, they improve on this. Isa Brown or all the breeds, just like cars, they release new model of, let's say, Lexus, for example. Every year they release new model and so on. When it comes to breeding program and all this breed, every year they release, new breed, or every 2 years they release new breed, and they improve on all these performance data. Moving on to the daily feed intake. I want us to look at this. Are we together, please? Are we following, please?
Absolutely, yes.
definitely.
Yeah, we're with you, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, great. And so this particular breed, which is the most common breed, we are going to look at it, and we are going to use the data, performance data a lot. So let us look at the age in weeks. I want us to look at the age in weeks. Can we see the age in weeks? So look at the age in weeks and the feed intake. The feed intake during week 1 between 0 to 7, one chicken per day. One chick per day, we consume a minimum of 9 grams and a maximum of 11 grams. So how do you calculate this? For example, you have 1,000 chickens or 200 chickens. How do you calculate the exact quantity of feed to give to your birds? As we move on, you are going to see how we calculate the exact quantity of feed to serve to your birds based on the age they are in. And let us look at the eggs consumed or produced and their livability. This, you're going to get all these literatures in the group just to give you an idea of what to expect in terms of feed conversion ratio and daily feed intake. So at 18 weeks old, I want us to look at the maximum daily feed intake. If you are following, I want you to tell me what one chicken consume per day, Isa Brown consume per day at 18 weeks old.
I think it's 23
20.
minimum and 25 maximum. 25
At
gram maximum, 23 gram minimum.
No,
No.
at 18 weeks.
Okay, at 18 weeks. Okay, that's 88 minimum and 90 maximum.
Amazing. Thank you. And so at 18 weeks old, for example, you have, let's say, 200 chickens, and you want to know what to serve them during the 18 weeks old. Once they clock 18 weeks old, can you see between 120 days, once they clock 120 days old, you take your calculator and then you multiply 88 grams by the number of chickens you have. And then, for example, let us do it. Or I think I'm jumping. So let me not do it because we have an example ahead of us. So as you can see, the daily feed intake and the cumulative and the livability, if you check the column, is reducing as they are aging and so on. Moving on to the performance data for Highland Brown. This is for Island Brown. I want us to look at the performance data for Island Brown. Look at the performance data for Island Brown. At the livability is 98%. That is during the rearing period. Is 98%. Now let us look at that of Isa Brown. We are doing comparison. Okay, it's not captured. The livability is not captured here. So the livability during the rearing period is actually the period before they commence egg production. So they are saying if you stock like, let's say 100, you're going to lose about 2 during the rearing period. Then the body weight at 17 weeks old, they expect you to have around 1,500 grams or 1,580 grams. Then the cumulative feed intake, they are supposed to consume about 6,069 grams or 6 kg. As we move on, we are going to see. Then let us look at the peak production. At peak production, they can lay up to 96%, 96.6%, but let us use the lowest 94%. And then so on. So you're going to have this, then you check it. And let us look at the countries and their most used layer breed. Starting with the United States of America, white Leghorn, they use white Leghorn. They use the Rhode Island breed. They use Isa Brown a lot. They use Island Brown a lot. In the United States, in the UK, United Kingdom, they use Isa Brown. They use Highland Brown, they use Lawman Brown, they use Rhode Highland. In China, they use Highland Brown a lot. They use Lawman Brown, they use Decab Amberlin, they use Shava White, they use Bourbon White. They also use Isa Brown. But in terms of population, these are the top. Then in Nigeria, the number one is Isa Brown, followed by Highland Brown, then Bovanera Black. In South Africa, Highland Brown occupy top. It just depends on just people's preference and then the breed they introduce to that country, or the company with upper hand or market share. Just like cars, some countries is Toyota. They use, especially in Nigeria. In other countries, they use, another brand and so on. But that does not mean that there are no other existing car brands or other breeds. But these are just the top. I'm not going to go over this in Ghana. White Leghorn, Loma brand, and Isa brand. Isa brand is really, really gaining ground in Ghana these days, followed by Highland brand. In India, they have different breed. They have H and Hen brown, BV 360, so many uh, options you can choose from. So these are just options you can actually go for. So moving on to the layers production goals. Now that you have decided on the breed to go for, my advice is this: go for Isa Brown or Island Brown. If you go for Isa Brown or Island Brown, you are good to go. You don't have any issue at all. I can beat my chest and tell you that these two breeds, they are absolutely good and they are popular, and vet doctors, they know how to manage them. Remember, I told you that when you are buying a car, you want to consider if there are mechanics that can fix your car or spare parts and so on. So these two breeds, they are really, really popular, and anyone you choose, you are definitely going to have an amazing experience. The Bovanera blacks, for example, people in sub-Saharan Africa or in Sahara regions, they prefer the black. They believe that they are rugged and they have high livability compared to the brown. So it depends on what works for you. But I can assure you that if you go for Isa brown or Island brown, you're going to have, or Loma brown, Decap Amber Link, any of those top four I introduced to you. If you go for any of them in your country, you're definitely going to enjoy commercial poultry farming. And so when it comes to layers production goals, every egg producer production goals are to raise chickens with the lowest mortality rate, and then to raise chickens that meets body weight target. If you are, interested in, for example, the meat, let's say broilers, your target should be, a chicken that meet the body weight target really, really fast. And then if you are also into egg production, you want to consider chickens that can, eat feed and then convert it to body weight. When it comes to egg production, body weight matters a lot. As we move on, you are going to see. Then one of the production goals is raise chickens with the best uniformity rate. You don't want a situation whereby 70% or let's say 50% of the chickens, they are looking the same. Then the remaining 50%, they are not looking, like the rest of the birds, or 40% are not looking like the rest of the 60%. So we aim at, high uniformity rate. Of course, you cannot have 100% uniformity rate. The standard is that you should have up to 90% uniformity rate. And if you have 90% uniformity rate, you are good to go. Another goal, which is the best goal for me, is to maintain good egg production and maximize profit. As we move on, our training is going to focus on how you can actually achieve all these goals. Now, layers management, we manage layers based on the phases they are in. We have the growing phase, we have the rearing phase, we have the egg production phase, and the last phase, which is the phase we are going to sell them. So let us look at the phases. What we do depends on the phases they are in. The feed they consume depends on the phase they are in. And the management also depends on the phase they are in. Between week 1, that is between day 0 to 6 weeks old, we call it the brooding phase. This is the phase that you brood them for pullets. For your broilers, the brooding phase is usually between day 1 to, let's say, even 7 days or 14 days. So it depends on the climate condition and depends on what is happening. But when it comes to pullets, the layers, the brooding phase is usually between week 1 or day 0 to 6 weeks or 7 weeks. Or you can make it up to 8 weeks. But if you are using broiler starter to feed your birds, at 6 weeks old, they will be so big and you can change to grower ration. So nowadays, chick mash is not being used again. What people are using to brood their chicken, especially pullet, is the broiler starter ration, because the broiler starter ration has high crude protein and metabolizable energy. So the chickens eat this feed and then they grow really, really, really fast. And so if you see 6 weeks old, you think they are, 8 weeks old. And so it's so important that you know this. So when it comes to the brooding phase, you're going to serve them broiler starter or chick mash. And then once they attain the body weight target for their age, you switch to what we call the grower ration. It could be mash, it could be pellet, it could be crumble. As we move on, you're going to see what we call mash, pellet, or crumble. The best form to present feed to your chickens during the brooding phase is usually in crumble form. Then the best form to present feed to your growing pullets or layers when they are growing is in pellet form. Then when they are laying, the best form is in mash. As we move on, you're going to see the pellet, the crumble, and the mash. Now, the growing phase is between, once you complete the brooding phase, you remove the tarpaulin so that there will be cross ventilation and so on. At that age, at 6 weeks old, they have enough feather to regulate their own body temperature. So you don't need to cover the whole place again. So you can remove everything so that there will be better cross ventilation. Then you check the body weight. If it meets, then you switch to the grower ration. But if it doesn't, you have to wait until it meets the body weight target for at least 6 weeks old or 8 weeks old before you change to the grower ration. But some farmers, they don't know this technique. So once their chicken clocks 6 weeks old and they are using broiler starter, they just change to grower ration or grower mash or starter or pellet or crumble. Then once they clock 17 weeks old and they meet the body weight target, you change to what we call pre-layer mash. The pre-layer mash has higher level of calcium to prepare them for the job ahead, which is to lay eggs. And so the pre-layer mash is what you give them until your chickens attain at least 2% production. That is to say, out of 100, if you have 100, if 2% commence egg production, then you can start introducing the layer ration, or you can wait until 5% of them commence egg production. If you have 1,000, if one day you pick 50 pieces of eggs, it is an indication that the next day you can conveniently change to the layer ration. Then the last one is between 80 and 100 weeks old. Between 80 and 100 weeks old, you can decide to sell your chickens. And then you continue, you sell the chickens, you use the money to buy points of lay or to grow another one to continue business. Moving on to the first one, which is the brooding phase. What do you do during the brooding phase? The kind of feed they use, I've said this, is that I've said it before, is starter mash. You can give them starter mash or pellet or crumble, but the best form to present your feed to them is actually in crumble. So during the brooding phase, what we do is that we ensure the temperature is okay. We also check on the birds regularly because they are like babies. So you adhere to the vaccination and medication guide given to you by your supplier, or we are going to give you the one we are going to give you. Remove the wool shavings from the water or feed so that the chickens can have access to feed easily. Then ensure that you go around to spot birds that are weak and then give special care to them. As we move on, you're going to see how we do this one after the other. Now, I would like to answer the most commonly asked question when it comes to brooding and then buying points of lay. We used to get this question a lot. They will ask, should I buy point of lay or brood my chickens? And someone also asked yesterday. As you can see, this is our answer. In my opinion, growing your birds from day old to laying time is usually the best option for the following reason. You are sure of the medication and vaccination history. You will not take bulk money to purchase them. If you want to buy like 10,000 birds, for example, point of lay, you're going to cover at least 55 million naira right now. However, if you are, growing the chickens yourself, you will not cough or you will not release that money, at the same time, if you're a business person, you need cash flow. And so that is just, the good thing about brooding your own. Then you will not pay the extra money for delivery. However, anything that has advantages has disadvantages. So you need two pen houses, especially if you are using battery cage housing system. And then people who didn't have or didn't take our training, lose up to 70% due to mortalities or due to ignorance. It will also increase your startup cost because you are building two pens. You will wait for about 5 months before it can start generating revenue. And if you take a loan, it's not a good option. So point of lay is the best if you take loan because you want to be paying money into the bank and you need cash flow really fast. Then you will carry series of vaccinations. Then if you decide to go for point of lay, and these are the advantages of point of lay. Point of lay or point of cage shorten your waiting time. Instead of waiting for 5 months before you see the first egg, you can wait for about 3 or 5 weeks before you see your eggs. That is really, really fast. For new farmers, I recommend this because it will encourage you. Then it reduces your startup costs by up to 50%. I already explained this. Point of lay reduce your risk of losing birds during brooding and growing phase. And then, but you need to, get the birds or the point of lay from a reliable poll supplier or grower like Poultry Care or any reputable source in your country or region. So in commercial broiler farming, you can buy what we call point of lay. We don't keep broilers until they start egg production or to the age of laying eggs in commercial broiler farming. So the only option is to brood them. And so we are going to look at how you can brood your chickens if you intend to brood your chickens, especially for broiler farmers who do not have, the option of buying chickens raised by someone. If someone raised a broiler to 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they're going to sell to you at a profit. And of course, it's not suitable. And secondly, they cannot transfer or transport broilers easily, especially during the brooding phase or at 2 weeks or 3 weeks. They are fragile and they die easily compared to pullets. Pullets are rugged compared to broilers. So imagine somebody order for 2,000 2 weeks old broilers from here to, let's say, Abuja, from Lagos to Abuja. I can assure you that there will be high mortality rates because broilers, they don't like stress. So just to chip in for those of us who do not have experience, if you are buying a day-old chicks, if you are in Ghana, in South Africa, in Kenya, in Uganda, they package their chicks about 100 in a carton. However, in Nigeria, they place 50 chicks or 51 chicks in a carton. So these are some of the things I want to chip in just to guide you. And then, so let us learn how to brood your pullet or broilers. And if you have any question, you can always drop it in the chat box and I will respond. And so pullets faces, let us start with pullets. As I said before, I'm not going to repeat myself over this. So from 0 to 6 weeks old is the brooding phase, then 7 to 16 weeks old is the growing phase, and then from 18 to 20 until 100 weeks old, we call it the laying phase. Now, the broiler phases, we have the brooding phase, growing, or the fattening phase, where you are going to, pump them with, a lot of fat using finisher, you're going to finish them off. So brooding is usually between 0 to 14 or 7 days, depends. And you can also follow the kind of feed you are using. They will write it, okay, 0 to 14 or 0 to 7 and so on. But generally, this is what we use. You brood for 14 days afterwards, then they are good to go. Broilers, they do not like heat, so you don't want to brood them for long and supply them, what is it called? Eat a lot, no. Then 29 until target weight are met, we call it the harvest phase. And your chickens, you can say your chickens at, 28, days. That is, 4 weeks old. 4 weeks old, your chicken can weigh up to 1.8 kg. So if your, let's say, target customers, they are looking for 1.2 kg, of course, your chickens that are weighing 1.9 or 1.8 after processing should be weighing 1.2 or 1.3, which you can supply. So it depends on what your target customer wants. So the harvest phase starts from 29 days until the target body weight which you are interested in. And so broilers and pullet brooding. What is brooding basically? I want you to look at the two pictures. We have the picture on the left and the picture on the right. The picture on the right is the picture of a mother hen. And the picture on the left is the picture of artificial brooding. So the picture on the right is what we call natural brooding. The mother hen does about 4 things. The mother hens provide the heat the chickens need. As you can see, the chickens, they are inside or under the wings of the mother. The mother warms the chicks. The mother also provides feed, that is food. As you can see, the mother hen, if you are used to village setting, you see once the mother hen hatch the chicks, the mother hen take the chicks out, lead them to where she can find food for them, scratch everywhere, scratch the ground to look for worm, give them even spoon feed them and so on. So the mother hen provides feed for them. The mother hen also protect them. The mother hen also look after them. So that is what we are doing. So what we do during the brooding phase, which is the artificial brooding, we mimic the mother hen, because the mother hen provide the food, lead them to where there is water, give them food, offer protection and so on. And once there is a danger, the mother hen makes a sound and the chicks, they know, they come and the mother hen cover them. So we want to do that during brooding. Hence the reason we are brooding. And we brood for broilers 1 to 2 weeks old. And for layers, we brood even up to 6 weeks old, depends on the condition. So the brooding phase, I'm not going to waste time on this. As you can see, this is the brooding phase. During the brooding phase, we cover everywhere. Can we see this slide, please? I want to be sure we are following.
Yes, we can see it clearly.
Okay, awesome. So during the brooding phase, if you are raising your chickens on deep litter housing system throughout, during the brooding phase, you just carve out a place, then cover the place, then you supply the eats and give them feed and so on. As we move on, you're going to see how we do it, but I want you to know that you need to seal the place. You need to seal the place, cover it with tarpaulin and so on. And once they develop enough feather to regulate their own body temperature, you can then remove the tarpaulin or whatever you use to cover your pen house. And if you are brooding your chickens in what we call environmentally controlled housing system, then you don't need to remove anything because everywhere is covered already. So when it comes to chicks, this is how it developed. I told us about parent stock and then the hatching. So this is the journey. It's actually 21 days. A chick or an egg, fertilized egg, will be transformed to a chick within 21 days, as you can see. We start with fertilized eggs, then you incubate, they fertilize eggs and so on, and they will develop. At 20 days old, the what we call piping, we commence, and then at 21 days old, they will emerge from the shell. Some can even emerge around 20 days, and some emerge around 21 days. So then you now have adorable chick. So that is the journey when it comes to the old chicks. Now, why are we brooding? We are brooding because we want to give the chicks solid foundation. We are brooding because we want to ensure high survival rate. If we decide to hatch the chicks and give it to mother hen cannot take care of the thousands of chickens we are brooding. And if we decide to just place the chickens inside this house, for example, inside this place after you hatch them, you just dump them here, you just put the feed without even taking care of them, the survival rate will be so low. So you lose a lot of birds. Hence the reason we carry out proper brooding to increase the survival rate of the chicks. And because we want to mass produce, we can rely on the mother hen to, brood thousands for us, 50,000 and so on for us. No, hence the reason we are brooding. When it comes to brooding, it's not, about praying. Of course, prayer first, everything is prayer, but you need to do certain things right. If you fail to do certain things right, then it's going to hurt you. But God can actually help you to cover your lapses. Notwithstanding, you have to do the needful, because when it comes to commercial poultry farming, there are rules you must follow. Poultry farming is a science. Commercial poultry farming is a science. We follow rules. If you do the right thing, you will get the right result. Everybody is getting around the world. If my colleague in Brazil does the right thing, and I also do the right thing here in Nigeria or in South Africa, I will get the right result. I'll get the same result. So poultry farming is a science. And so if you decide to do the wrong thing, you are going to get the wrong result. So most people, based on my experience and my interaction with poultry farmers, they do the wrong things and they end up blaming the chick supplier or the poult grower because they are not getting the result they're supposed to get. In this training, you are going to know what to do, how to do them, and when to do them, and do the right thing so that you can get the right result. During brooding, we expect you to have at least some mortalities, but that mortality should not be more than 1%. Maximum 2% during the brooding phase, whether it's pullet or broilers. And you can get even less than 0.2%, 0.02%. That is very small. That is to say, if during your brooding phase, if you stock 1,000 broilers, you may just have 2 mortality rates, just 2 dying. I have, some of our alumni who have never done, poultry farming before, that we guided, had just 5% mortality from brooding to the growing phase when she saw them. And before then, she was losing birds. And that was a major reason she enrolled in our training. And after our training and our support, we guide her what to do, how to do them. She lost just 5 birds out of 1,000. The subsequent ones, she didn't even call us again. Why? Because we taught her what to do. And so when you do the right thing, you're going to get the right result. So some mortalities are due to ignorance or human errors. So don't be scared of brooding your chickens. So most of the mortalities usually result as a result of low or high temperature. There was a client who do not know about, giving chickens, temperature or heat. She bought just 50 and she lost everything. Why? The chickens, they were cold. She didn't know any, she just left them that way. She was not taking good care of them. And in fact, she even blocked everywhere. She was using one room. no ventilation, nothing, nothing. The chickens, after 7 days, she was just losing. Of course, cold had already entered their system. Even after we intervened, it could not, revive them, and they all died. So you need to do the right thing. And when she, bought another one, and we taught her, she lost about 7 out of 50. And then someone also bought from us. He has never brooded before, and he kept the bot for about even 4 months. Within that 4 months, he didn't lose up to 2 out of the 50. This person is a chef. And so he just want to try and to just brood, by himself. So he got the boss from us, and we guided him, and he didn't lose, bot for a very, very long time. And so you can, brood your chickens without losing your bots. We are not saying that you will not lose bots, but you shouldn't lose, beyond the standard abnormal mortalities. That is what we frown at. You can step on your chicks, which is normal stuff. Your chickens can die because the chicken is weak or because of hatching abnormalities, but dying beyond the acceptable mortality rate is what we are, teaching you to prevent, in this class. Then if you are using poor feed, of course, your chickens will not grow. They will not get the right nutrient to survive. So they're likely going to die. Then hatchery problems, some hatcheries, the parent stock, they pass some disease to the chicks. And so they end up, exhibiting the disease, and you may have problems. So it's really important you buy from reputable sources so that you don't have hatchery issues. So mortality in poultry can be minimized, but not 100% preventable. So I want you to know this. You can minimize mortalities, but you cannot prevent mortality 100%. Say, for example, you have 1,000, you say, oh, my chickens will not die. It's not possible. At least you should lose something. And look at this farmer on the left. As you can see, this farmer did a lot of things wrongly. There is no heat source. Look at the old chickens died, or maybe the heat source the person used, he didn't, open the windows a bit for the gases to escape, or it lit the charcoal pot inside, and then the carbon, So these are some of the things that people do wrongly, and then they say, oh, brooding is not cool, or they're not interested in brooding. And so just to let you know, the acceptable brooding percentage they are supposed to accept during the brooding phase, 1%, worst case scenario, 2%. Then growing phase, 1.5%. So total during the brooding phase, and the growing phase should be 2 to 3%, worst case scenario. So if you have 1,000 capacity during the rearing phase, if all things being equal, you are supposed to lose like 20 or 30 maximum, worst case scenario. And you may not even lose up to 10. So nothing happens by accident. You have to do the needful. So how do you do the needful? The first thing you want to do, say, for example, you have a space like this, you want to cover everywhere. Then you clean the place. You remove the old beddings, clean everywhere to ensure that everything is right. So once you clean everywhere, the next thing you want to do is to do what? Is to carry out the necessary repair. If your roof is leaking, ensure that you close any crevices, or you close anything that you believe will make a rat or anything to enter the brooder. Just ensure that you do the needful. Once you do the needful, you are setting the ground for a successful brooding. Just look at this. If you place your chickens here, of course, there will be high survival rate because these look clean. Then moving on to what you need to do, you need to wash everywhere, just like babies. You don't want death to be close to your babies. So you want to do everything possible to ensure you reduce the microbial load in your brooder or in your pen house. So you can decide to use this. Can you see? You can decide to wash the floor, which I recommend. You can use detergent. Detergent is a strong, you know, it's a strong disinfectant that can disinfect or neutralize any virus or reduce microbial load in your pen house. So you use detergent and then scrub the floor. Can you see? You scrub the floor. As you can see, then you clean everywhere like this. You clean everywhere. And then if you are using environmentally controlled housing system, we normally, what we do is that we, we adjust the feeders and drinkers upward. And so if we design and construct your pen for you, we're going to install what you're going to use to adjust your feeders and drinkers upward. Then you use what we call grader for large pen houses. We use grader to grade the beddings, the old beddings. After grading, then we now use sweeper. We attach it to the vehicle, then it will sweep the place for you automatically. Then you now use pressure or water to flush the drinkers, the feeders, everywhere will be super clean so that once you stock the farm, there won't be issues. Why are we doing this? We are doing this because we don't want disease outbreak. The chickens that were once inside, they were old and they may have, some diseases with them, which of course, because of their age and because of the immune system that is high at their age, it may not affect them. So if you do not carry out the necessary cleaning, those diseases or microbial load may affect your day-old chicks. The day-old chicks, their immunity or their immune system has not been built. It's so low because they are baby chicks. But as they are growing, the immune system will be increasing and so on. So you want to do everything possible to reduce the microbial load so that you can have high survival rate. What do you use to disinfect? You don't use strong disinfectants. For example, those people who use disinfectant or fumigate their houses, they understand. Some of these disinfectants are really, really, really strong, so you don't want to use those kind of disinfectant. The residue can stay in your pen house for long and may affect your birds if your birds ingest them. So you want to avoid those strong disinfectants. You can use poultry disinfectants, poultry-based disinfectant that we use. Polythene-based disinfectant is actually good and it comes in different brands in your country. They can name it Dean, they can name it Lodine, they can name it, depends on the name they give it. But if you go to any veg store, you just tell them you need disinfectant. There are so many products out there and they will give you. So the first thing you want to do is to, after you clean the place, you allow it to dry. After you allow it to dry, you now sprinkle or you spray disinfectant around that place. We are doing this to reduce the microbial load. We are now saying that there are microbes there, but we are doing all this as precautions just so to reduce the microbial load. Once you do that, you also want to sprinkle this on the beddings that you are laying about 24 hours to 40 or 48 to 24 hours, just so to also neutralize anything that may come with the beddings, these wood shavings you are saying. You can also decide to sun dry your wood shavings because where you are coming from, there may be some oocysts inside the beddings. So you want a situation whereby you don't bring those things inside your pen house. Most poultry farmers, they bring disease inside their pen house because they do not do the needful. So you want to do all these things to ensure that you do not bring disease into your farm. When it comes to laying the beddings, this is just the guide. You can use your fingers once you dip it inside and it covers it, as you can see. I don't have time because we have a lot to cover, so I'm going to proceed. Just look at these guidelines. We are going to share this with you. So just look at this and you are good. So what do you need during brooding? The first thing you're going to do is to get what we call thermometer. Thermometer is so important because that is what we guide you to know the temperature level inside your pen house. So you're going to get all these things if you intend to use brooder gas, or you intend to use charcoal pots, or you intend to use burner, industrial burner, as you can see. So you're going to get all these things, your medications, vitamins, antibiotics, vaccines, if you intend to get them in advance. If you have, a cooling system in your house, otherwise you don't need to buy your vaccine down. You can buy them when you want to use them. So these are the things you need before your chicks arrive. Moving on to how do you know the number of drinkers, feeders to use? So during the brooding period, you are going to use what we call chicks drinkers, and you're going to use what we call chicks feeders or chicks feeding tray. So this is what we use, and this is how we allocate chickens to them. One chick feed tray can accommodate 30 chicks. So you can assign 30 chicks to one chick feed tray, this feed tray. Then drinker, you can attach 50 chicks to one chick drinker. And then for bell drinker, when they are old, after the brooding and they are old, you are supposed to remove the chicks drinkers and the feeders, and then replace them with adult feeders and adult drinkers. So for bell drinkers, if you are using bell drinker, we assign 50 bots to one bell drinker. And for adult feeders, you can attach 20 bots to, one feeder. So it depends on, how, fast they are eating their feed. You can top the feed, the feeder every now and then. And then when it comes to the age as well, you are supposed to be adjusting the height of the drinkers and the feeders. As they are aging, you are supposed to, increase it. You're supposed to, adjust it upward until it gets to a particular level that you don't need to adjust the feeder upwards again, especially for laying phase. Once they get to the laying phase, you adjust it to the back. Once you adjust it to the back of the boards, you don't need to be adjusting it upward again, including the feeders and the drinkers, if you are raising your chickens on the deep litter system. But if you're not raising your chickens on the deep litter system, you follow your cage recommendation. If it is 120 bar per unit, that is what you're going to, place per unit of the cage. So neatly spread the beddings, as you can see, just to give you an idea, you neatly spread it. You follow the pattern we are showing you here. If you follow it, you arrange your drinkers and feeders professionally. Don't scatter the feeders and drinkers, as you can see. Why? You want a situation whereby it will look nice, it will look professional, not just looking professional, it will enable you to work easily. Not that you just spread the drinkers and the feeders anyhow, no. Arrange it professionally. As you can see, you can also decide to use what we call brooder guard. The brooder guard, as you can see, is like a polymer, or you can use carton like this. But in large scale production, we don't have time to use this kind of circle brooder guard. But back then, we use it a lot, but now we don't have time for that. So, but people are still using brooder guards. You can decide to use brooder guard. What brooder guard does is that it's enable you to manage the bots easily, and you can easily look at the bots one after the other or closely, because they are restricted. Then you can move around easily, because you have brooder guard around. Then once you are through with brooding, you can remove the brooder guard. Then they can now, have access to the entire pen house. So this is how we go about it. You can decide to use what we call brooding paper like this during the brooding, but after 2 or 3 days, remove the papers. Now, we recommend that once you place your chicks and they have taken water, you serve the feed and then you sprinkle, what is it called? Feed on this paper so that any place the chicks, go to, they will see, feed. The reason we do this is because the chicks, they do not really know where to get the feed. So, and they are good at pecking. They will just be pecking anywhere. So if you sprinkle the feed everywhere, just lightly so that you don't waste your feed. Once they peck anywhere, maybe plain, they are automatically eating feed. And because they are eating feed, the survival rate will be high because the feed contain nutrient that will help them immediately. So step 5, before you take or you place your chickens, you are supposed to raise the brooder temperature 24 hours before chicks arrival. Keep the brooder temperature at 35 degrees Celsius. For example, you are taking delivery tomorrow, you are supposed to cover everywhere, then just raise the temperature. Your charcoal pot, light it and let the place, get hot so that when your chicken comes, they will just get into that atmosphere and then grow with it. Know that when your chicken comes, that's when you start lighting the charcoal pot or you start putting on the industrial burner or whatever you are using. No, ensure that you heat up the place 24 hours prior to placement. And I do not recommend this. Do not use this kind of carton to brood your chickens or as bedding or as brooding paper. It's wrong because the carton you are seeing cannot absorb the waste. So most times the waste is on the brooder, on the carton rather, and then it makes the whole place messy and the chickens may end up pecking the feces and you don't want that. But this kind of brooding paper, they are soft. You can use newspaper and it's kind of break by itself. So it's not hard and it has, high level of absorption. So it can absorb things easily, but this one does not absorb anything. So don't use this, it's not good. I also want to chip in something. As you can see, ordinary sand, people are using it, but it's not really ideal. Why? The sand may be cold. The reason we are using beddings, or we call wood shavings, is because we want to separate the floor from the chickens or from the chicks. The floor temperature is actually lower compared to, when you place beddings. So because they do not have access to the floor, it also helps them to regulate their body temperature. So, but people are using this because they do not see beddings, that is wood shavings, but I do not recommend this. And if you are using this, you have to heat the place up so that the sand itself will be hot. And when you place your chickens, the floor will not be cold. Because if the floor is cold and you place your chickens, they are likely going to have high mortality rates. Then I would like to show you how we set, our brooder, the one on the right. Everything is arranged. As you can see, the brooder is ready, 100% ready to take delivery of the bots. And now this is chick screening. This will be done at the hatchery before you receive the bots at your farm. So these are just tests that we carry out if you're getting your bots from poultry care. These are the normal tests, and some hatcheries, they also carry out these tests. So there's what we call reflex. And how do we carry out the test? We just, flip the boards, that is to say the back, we place it on the floor. If the chicks takes 3 seconds to stand up, then that chicken is really excellent. It has passed, that test. But if the chicken takes between 4 to 10 seconds to stand up, that chicken is also acceptable, but we classify it as acceptable. And then if the chickens does not stand up after 10 seconds, then that chicken is coiled. You can put it inside the chick box. You can't. So these are, then you look at the navel. Is it clean? If the ones that are clean and well healed, we call them excellent chicks. Then the ones that are closed but slightly, we just acceptable, manageable ones. Then and so on. The legs is the clean, waxy legs. We call them excellent and so on. So these are the ways we grade chicks before we deliver them to you. And these are just the way it's done at the hatchery. So if you're getting your bird from poultry care, the hatcheries, they also do their own. We also carry out our own screening, and then the ones that are bad, we return into the hatchery and get replacement immediately. Now, to get your chicks, you can decide to get from chicks vendors or chick suppliers. You can also decide to, import. Like in Ghana, in other countries, their government allow importation of DO chicks, but in some countries, you cannot import DO chicks unless you have the license. So you have to rely on local suppliers. Even in Ghana, you cannot import chicks directly. There are some people, they give license to import chicks, and then you buy from them. So in Nigeria, there's nothing like that unless you import parent stock, you import the eggs. There's nothing like buying imported DO chicks. All the chicks are shared because the industry is advanced and it's one of the best in the world. So you can decide to get directly from the hatchery or from chick suppliers, but you have to be sure that you're getting from a reliable source. So if you're getting your birds or you're getting your chicks and you paid for it, you may not get it immediately. There are hatching days. And so in Nigeria, the hatching days are Mondays and Thursdays. So expect to receive the birds the following day, especially if you're far from Ibadan. So usually the following day, you will get the birds and they will deliver it to your bus stop. If you're buying large number of birds, it will be delivered to your farm directly. You can also go to the hatchery and pick up the birds. However, for example, you have your farm, let's say in Abuja or in the East, it's not really convenient for you to come down to the hatchery to get the chicks yourself. There are some logistics companies that Poultry Care partner with or that we use. So we send chicks directly to clients or to the nearest bus stop using these logistic people. So you can decide to buy from Poultry Care, you can decide to buy from other sources. I'm just showing you the way you can acquire your DO chicks. Then I would like to ask us questions. The first thing you do when you receive your birds, what is the first thing you are supposed to do after your chicks arrive? Or you take your chicken or the chicks to your brooder? What is the first thing you are supposed to do? I would like to hear from us. Okay, Mr. Deji says, give them water. Are you sure? Are we in class? Are we in class, please? I would like to hear from us. Are we in class, please? Serve them water. Okay, okay. That is
Yes,
awesome.
we are with you, sir.
So,
Actually, as we have on the screen, I think the first thing on the screen is tap water.
okay, okay. Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you really sure? Why? Why should we serve them water first?
Actually, according to my own little knowledge or opinion, I think it's to ease the stress, the transportation stress. So that's why we need to serve them water to cool down the stress.
Okay, thank you for that contribution. Former Elohim says check chicks reactions or weighing. Okay, thank you for that. Former Jeff says inspection. Okay. Former Deji says water first, then because they are dehydrated probably. Okay. Provide them water. Thailand says provide heat source. Okay, thank you for your contribution. So the first thing you do, let us look at the first thing you are supposed to do. When you receive your board, remember I told us that the first thing you are supposed to do 24 hours prior to receiving your board. These are, what we call what you're supposed to do before arrival, like the heat source someone mentioned. You're supposed to do that before you even bring them inside the pen house. You're supposed to, ensure that the place is, the temperature is okay before you bring the chicks. Now, when you bring the chicks, what are you supposed to do? The first thing we do is not serving them water. The first thing we do is what? We weigh the birds. After you unboss them quickly, you want to weigh the birds. When it comes to commercial poultry farming, we don't joke with weighing both broilers and chicks because we want to know the weight we are starting with. So if you give them water, for example, it's going to increase the weighing. So we sample, we just take, few bots, from each carton, then sample to just have an average of the body weight we are starting with, especially for broilers, because you want to know what you are starting with. If your broilers are weighing, let's say 45 grams, you know that the broiler is low, or 20 grams, for example, you know that this broiler is really, really low, then you need to do something immediately. So when then we give you that idea that, oh, these birds, they are really, really low, then that means I need to increase their the vitamin, or I need to give them something that will make them to eat really, really fast, or you need to give them, more than enough attention. So the first thing you need to do after unbossing them quickly is to weigh them randomly to take the average weight you are starting with, especially for broiler farming. And then for layer production as well, you need to know the weight. As you can see, for pullet chicks, they should be weighing 32 to 35 grams. For broilers, they should be weighing 35 to 60. Good ones, we weigh 50 and above, as you can see. So I would like to ask water first or feed first? I'd like to hear from us. Okay. Mr. Deji says water first. Okay, thank you. I'd like to hear from us what should come first and why. Water first or feed first? Okay. I think everybody says water first. Okay. We are absolutely correct. Mr. Dante says water first. Absolutely correct. The first thing you want to do is to, introduce them to water. And because they have, passed through a lot of stress, even at the hatchery alone, the stress they went through is actually enormous, vaccination and so on, sexing them, and so on. So they pass through a lot of stress. So the first thing you want to do after they arrive at your farm is do what? First off, you add glucose or anti-stress to the water. You can use glucose. If you're using glucose, you don't need to use anti-stress medication or drug. And if you're using vitamin with anti-stress, you don't need to use glucose and anti-stress. There are some vitamins, for example, vitamin O3 has anti-stress in it. So automatically, you don't need to, bother yourself, adding, glucose or anti-stress medication. However, if you decide to add glucose, just minute quantity, just to improve the anti-stress in the vitamin you going to add to the water. So the first thing you are going to do is to add glucose to the water and serve water immediately. Do not add antibiotics the first day because antibiotics is to prevent diseases. So the first day you don't want to, place them on medication. So you place them on glucose or vitamin. Vitamin is actually is not antibiotics, it's just to help them to grow fast and also to boost their immune system. So I've seen this over and over in some places. They serve food first. Even if you receive your point of lay, the first thing to give them is what is water. Allow them to take water for like 1 hour or 30 minutes before you introduce feed to them. Allow them to hydrate because they have been, you know, dehydrated for a very long hour. So you have to give them water first. Just like most of us, when we fast, you don't eat first. You do what? You take water first. You take juice first before you start eating solid, food. So that the intestine can be open and then lubricated. Now, if you introduce feed to them, it may lead to some issues, complications. Sometimes it may lead to high mortality. You may just see your chickens dying the following day and so on. So you want to really avoid this. What are the things you're supposed to do after placement? For example, you have introduced them inside the brooder now. What are the laws you're supposed to obey? There are 4 laws you're supposed to obey. The first one is that provide water and feed 24/7 for the first 7 days. Even if you are using a feeding technique whereby once you give them feed, you don't serve them again. No, for the first 7 days, you're supposed to provide feed 24/7 and water 24. In fact, throughout the production, you're supposed to provide water 24/7. So another thing again, you need to provide at least 1 hour period of darkness per day. For example, you can decide to, switch off the light around 10 p.m. and put it on around 11 p.m. That is 1 hour period of darkness during brooding. So every animal needs period of darkness for them to rest. You don't need to expose them to light 24/7. No, no, no. It's going to weaken their immune system. Moving on to the law 2, you need to work with your brooder temperature. You need to use what we call thermometer. Your thermometer should be your, best friend. So the brooding house temperature must be kept between 33 to 35 degrees Celsius during the first 1 week. Then as they are aging, it should be reducing. We have a guide that we follow. As we move on, you're going to see this. When it comes to pullet brooding, this is the guide. And I would like to get response from us if we are following. If you look at from the left, if you're raising your chickens inside a cage, the temperature between the 0 to 3 should be between 33 to 36 degrees Celsius. Now, if you're raising the chickens on the floor, the temperature should be 35 to 36 degrees Celsius. This is what we follow. Because the chicks you are seeing, the day-old chicks you are seeing, they are naked. They are naked. They don't have anything covering them. So they can get cold easily. When we are brooding, one of the parameters that is so important is the temperature. If you can get the temperature right, then you are likely going to have smooth brooding, because it's one of the reasons why they die a lot. So the temperature range should be between 33 rather to 36 when they are 0 to 3 days old. Then if you are raising on the floor, should be 35 to 36. And then the intensity of the light, how is it bright? The brightness should be between 30 to 50 loss. Now, between 4 to 7 days, of course, by this time, the chicks is already growing some feathers. So you want to reduce the temperature. So if you are raising them inside the cage, brooding them inside the cage, the temperature should be between 30 to 32, you maintaining. So I'm not going to waste my time on this. We see this and just follow the guide until you are through brooding. This is how we reduce it. We reduce the temperature gradually, including the period of darkness. Can you see? So look at the intermittent light hour or light program. You can decide if you are raising broilers, you can decide to give them 1 hour period of darkness. And you can also decide to give them 4 hours period of darkness. So as they are aging, the darkness level will be increasing. Look at between 15 to 21 days, you're supposed to give them light. They will have light throughout for 18 hours. That is a bright place. That does not mean that, you're going to on Gen 247. No, illuminate the place if the place is bright enough for them to see feed and to see water to drink. You are good to go. Then during the night, you can switch on your gen or your solar or whatever you are using to illuminate the pen house. So you're going to be maintaining these hours of light throughout. So this is a guide and I hope you follow it. Now I would like to ask us questions and to be sure that we are following. Now, as a consultant, because the aim of this training is to make you a consultant and also to make you a poultry expert that people can actually consult because you'll be equipped with the necessary knowledge. Now, based on what you have learned so far, I want you to look at this setup, this farm. They invite you to this farm and the farmer and you made something like this. I would like to hear from us what would be your advice. I would like to also ask what are wrong here and what are the solution? What are your recommendation? I would like to hear from us. I would like us to speak.
I think in the second picture, I think maybe it's too much heat.
Okay, okay, Mr. Deji.
Hello, sir.
Mr. Deji, you are speaking. So I would like us to speak one after the other. So I'm going to call names. So Mr. Deji, I would like you to explain what is wrong with the picture on the right. And, tell us what should be done. Then the middle one as well, what is wrong and what should be done. And then the one on the left, what is wrong and what should be done.
Yeah, so I think the one on the right, it seems all the chicks are clustered in together. So it may be that that place is too cold for them. They'll probably need to look at the temperature and increase it. So in the middle one, as I said earlier, I think the light is just too much. And the heat probably is too high, the temperature is too high. So you can see that all the birds are near the wall, they're far away from the light source, which is probably the heating source as well. So I think in the second one, they need to reduce the temperature, maybe also the intensity of the light. One on the left, all the chicks seems to be well distributed evenly. I'm not really seeing. Okay, so I can see that the heating source there, the birds are not near them as well. They're far away, not very far away, but I think out of all the three, if I have to choose one, I think the one on the left, because the chicks are evenly distributed.
Okay, thank you so much for that contribution. I'd like to hear from somebody want to talk the other time. Please go ahead if you have something to say concerning this. So what do you think are wrong and what are your recommendations? Imagine you happen to visit a farm and you see something like this.
Hello, sir.
Hello, Farmer Zainab, please go ahead.
Okay, the picture on the left shows a code. Then
Okay,
the picture on the right. They said we
okay,
should start from the right. The right is cold. The
okay.
one in the middle is too much heat. Then the first one is normal temperature.
Oh, we lost our thinker system shut down. So I would like to hear from others. What do you think? I want this class to be really interactive so that I know that we are following. Okay, without wasting much time, I would like to explain what. Okay, please go ahead. So from our peculiar, please go ahead. Hello.
I think the one on the left is okay. Then the one at the center, the light is too close. Like the light should have been taken up a bit. While the second one that too crowded, that the quantity is too much. That is on the one on the right side.
All right. Thank you so much for that contribution. Because of our time, I would like to tell us what are wrong here and what you're supposed to do. And so chickens, they have a way of talking to us. They may not really speak our language, but their behavior tell us what is wrong, and their behavior also tell us if they are okay or not. So starting from the right, as you can see, this is a good setup. However, the chickens are not getting enough eat. That is number one. The chickens are not getting enough eat. The eating source is really, really low, and they are cold. As you can see, they congregate, and because they congregate, it shows that they are cold. They congregate to warm one another. So it's a sign that they are cold. The temperature inside the pen house is very low. So as a farmer or as a consultant to this farm, or they send you this kind of picture, what you're supposed to tell the farmer is this. Tell the farmer to increase the temperature. This farmer, I'm sure, doesn't even have thermometer to know or have this kind of training to know what is wrong. So since you know what is wrong, you tell the farmer, and if the farmer do the right thing, the survival rate will be high. Now, if this farmer does not know what to do, and these chickens are in this condition for 48 hours, the farmer will have a lot of mortalities. Cold will enter their body and the chickens will die. So the problem here is that fantastic brooder. However, the arrangement of the feeders and the drinkers isn't professional, as you can see. Secondly, there's no, enough eat source. And this farmer needs to act very, very fast. Otherwise, cold will enter their body and that will reduce their survival rate. Moving on to the photograph in the center. The photograph in the center, the farmer did, the necessary things. For example, the farmer provided enough feeders, provided enough drinkers. However, the farmer didn't arrange the feeders like a professional. Another thing that is wrong here is that the heat is too much. The heat is too much. As you can see, the chicks, they are running away. In this case, it's not that they are cold. No, they are running away. The heat is so much. Look at the heat source. They are running away from the heat source. Now, if any of the heat source on the right, the first picture on the right, if any of the heat source is actually, active, the birds, they will congregate around that heat source because they are cold to get warm. However, look at this one. If the heat source is too much, is too high, or if the bulb you are using, the intensity is too high, they will run away. You begin to wonder, why are they running away? Where are they congregating? Is it that they are cold? No, they are not cold. The heat source is so high and they are running away. Now, if this farmer continue this way throughout the brooding, the chickens, they are going to have issues. They are going to die. So most people, they kill their chickens without them knowing. There was our client who roasted her chicken. The temperature inside the brooder was close to 50 degrees Celsius. She didn't know anything about the stuff we are teaching, the temperature range. The temperature is supposed to be between 33 to 35 for the first 1 week. But the first 1 week, this woman was raising the temperature, the brooder temperature to 50. And she was having mortalities. So people kill their boss due to ignorance, and hence the reason I'm chipping all of these things so that you have an understanding. So your chickens, if the light is too bright or the temperature is too high, it's really bad for them. So you want to keep to the range and then their behavior. The photograph on the right, on the left rather, the last photograph on the right, as you can see, the balls, they are evenly distributed. That shows that the temperature is okay. Can you see? And the chicks, they are eating well, they are drinking and so on. And as you can see, the feeders and the drinkers are well arranged. Can you see? So the farmer tie the adult feeders. Can you see the adult feeders? The farmer is not using the adult feeder at this age. The farmer is using the feed tray, the chick feed tray. So once the chicks grow, the farmer will withdraw the chick feed trays and then, start using the adult feeders. So these are the things I want to really show you. And I hope that you adopt this, in your brooding. So as you can see, it's still the same thing. Look at this farmer, the picture in the middle, there is no heat source at all. These chicks, they will die. If most of them will die due to cold, if nothing is done. And look at the picture on the left, the intensity is too high. This farmer is using carton to brood. You can do that if you have few bots. However, two things are wrong here. The intensity of the bulb is so high, and then the drinkers is too close to the wall or too close to the carton. You don't want to place the feeders or your drinkers close to the wall. Otherwise, you are likely going to meet a chicken that is trapped or a chick that is trapped, and you're going to meet a dead chicken the following day. So in professional brooding, we give space, enough space between the wall and the drinkers and the feeders so that chicks don't get trapped. Chicks naturally, they like tight places. That is where they want to go to. So I would advise this farmer, arrange your feeders and drinkers very well. Since you are using bulb, this bulb, let's say this bulb is about 60 watts, reduce it to 25 watts. How do you reduce it? You buy another bulb of lower watts and you solve the problem and the chicks will be fine. Moving on to a guide. This is a guide, as you can see. If the heat lamp, for example, just like this one, look at this, 2 hot. Look at the heat source at the center there. If it's too hot, chicks avoid the heat lamp and migrate towards the outside of the brooder, that is the angles, just like the way they did here. Can you see the way they did here? Can you see? They migrate. Can you see this? They migrate because the heat source is too hot. And if the place is too cold and you have heat source around, it will congregate around that heat source to keep warm. So if you notice this kind of behavior, you should know that the heat is wrong. You have to increase the temperature. And of course, if you have thermometer there, it will help you. Then if the heat source is right, you see the body will distribute evenly. So this is just the guide that we use. So during brooding, thermometer is your best friend. So as you can see, this farm, the chicks are doing absolutely well. Can you see the feed trays, the drinkers, well arranged? The survival rate will be high. Can you see? And look at the one on the right, on the left rather. Can you see the chicks, they are evenly distributed. As you can see, survival rate will be high. And look at the chicks, they are doing absolutely well. Survival rate will be high. So you need to take note of this. If you do this, you will not have mortality rates, abnormal mortality rate. So this is the temperature guide that we use. As you can see, during brooding, I advise you to get thermometer. Thermometer is so cheap. It's so cheap. So you get thermometer, it will tell you the relative humidity, it will tell you the ambient temperature, it will tell you the penthouse temperature. So depends on the relative humidity. So if the relative humidity is reading like 40 degrees Celsius, as you can see, you are supposed to 40% rather, if the relative humidity is 40%, then you are supposed to raise the temperature to 36 degrees Celsius. Then if most times the relative humidity inside a penthouse is usually 50, 60, and so on, and at times 40 something. So if you notice this is the guide that we follow. As they are aging, you follow this guide. And as I said, chicks' behavior should also be monitored. Chicks have a way of telling you if they are comfortable or not. So even if your temperature is 36 degrees Celsius and your chicks are looking cold, it could be that something is wrong, or it could be that your thermometer is giving wrong reading. So you have to check some of these things. And if you see that your chicks are also panting, then you should know that something is wrong. So the chick's behavior will tell you if your temperature is actually right or not. So these are just guides that we use if you are using the whole house. This is for broilers. I want you to know this is for broilers. This one you are saying is for broilers, and this one is for pullet. So this is what you are going to use if you are brooding pullet, the layers, and this is what you are going to use if you are brooding layers, Ross 308 or Aboeka or this. This is what you should, because the day-old chicks, broilers, they don't like eat like the pullets. They are fat naturally, and so they don't like too much eat. So you want to maintain the temperature within this range, and they will be fine. So another thing again that we use, if all things being equal, the relative humidity and the temperature is all right, and you take your thermoscan to read the vent, it should be reading around 39 to 40. If you have 39 to 40 range and then extra on top, they are fine. So this is what we do to just double sure whether the temperature is all right. But what I advise people to do is the chicks behavior and then following thermometer, and they are good to go. So as you can see, this is really, really smooth brooding. Can you see this? Very, very smooth. Can you see? So I advise you, if you are brooding, because everywhere is closed, I advise that you open the door. Open the door and the window for like 15 minutes. Let there be exchange of air, oxygen and all that. Let the bad gas disappear and let fresh air comes in for 15 minutes every day. If you do this, it will, give your chickens amazing growth rate, because if gases, maybe you are burning charcoal inside and so on, those gases are trapped, and we know the side effect of, carbon monoxide. It can even kill humans. So it usually affects their chicks, immune system. It suppresses it because they inhale the gas. Another thing again, it can lead to what we call stunt growth, because they inhale those gases. It affects their hormones and they will not grow the way they're supposed to grow. So if you are using all these, eating salt that releases carbon monoxide, we advise that you open the door and windows for like, 15 minutes, and after 15 minutes, you close it back. Even if you're now using charcoal pot, you open the windows or the door for 15 minutes. Let fresh air comes in. It will help the chicks. So the broiler lighting program, you are supposed to give your broiler a period of darkness. And after brooding, we advise that even if you want to meet body weight target really, really fast, do not exceed this hour. Give them at least 70 hours light. Then let them rest for like 7 hours. Let there be period of darkness for 7 hours. Even if you want to meet body weight really, really fast. If you do this, your chicks' immune system will be boosted. It will not be suppressed, and they will grow really fast. So please, this is what we do, and this is what help us to have high survival rate when brooding. Okay, moving on to what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to follow your vaccination program. As you can see at the ASHI, they give them what we call Marek's disease, Newcastle disease vaccine, infectious bronchitis, disease vaccine. So these are given at the ASHI. And then when it comes or when they get to your farm, you can give them vitamin and antibiotics. Then if you want to be sure, especially for pullets, you can decide to give them, MD, which is Marek's disease vaccine, just to be double sure. But if they give them at the ASHI, you don't really need to give them Marek's disease. Marek's disease is usually given even before they are ashed through the eggs. And immediately they are ashed, they are also given, they can be given because the pathogen is everywhere. And so you don't want your chickens to inhale such kind of virus or to get in contact with such kind of virus. So you have to vaccinate them immediately. And by law in Nigeria, you don't release chickens from your hatchery without giving them Marek's disease vaccine. So you're going to get the vaccination program for broilers, for pullets in the group. So the brooding management begins immediately after placement, and this is so important so that you can have high survival rate. And so the key component I want to tell you today concerning brooding is that temperature, water, access to feed, fresh air, and lighting program. If you can get this right, if you can get these three essential parameters right during brooding, I can assure you that you have amazing, amazing brooding experience. So basically, we are through with the brooding, and I think we are good to stop today's session, but let me finish up with the brooding management, then I'll take your questions. So after placement, for example, after you place the chicks, then you allow them to eat. You walk around just to check whether they are eating. The ones that are not eating, you assist them to eat by taking them to the feeders and the drinkers. If you do that, it will, help the chickens to have high survival rate. Another thing you want to do immediately, you unboss. The weak birds, do not mix them with the healthy birds. The ones that are weak or the ones they trample on during transit, you separate them. You have a separate place for them. You carve out a place for them whereby these active ones cannot access, so that you give them adequate attention. This is so important. So after placement, you want to check their crop. That's what we call crop field check. You walk around like every 1 hour, the crop field should be increasing. And so, for example, at 2 hours after placement, the crop field should be about 75%. 4 hours after placement, the crop should be 80%. And then after 8 hours, the crop field should be greater than 80%. And then after 12 hours, the crop field should be greater than 85%. Then after 24 hours, we expect the crop should be filled more than 95%. Then after 48 hours, we expect that the crop should be fully filled. A fully filled crops means that the chickens is eating very well and the chicken will have high survival rate. And so these are just guide you're supposed to do, you're supposed to follow rather. You can read this up and when we share the material with you. So basically, we are through with the brooding. During brooding, you want to remove the beddings from feeders and drinkers, check on your birds periodically, check the crop field, as I said, leave the charcoal pots outside before bringing them inside the pen house. Then open the brooder door every 15 minutes or 30 minutes once per day for fresh oxygen to come in. Then as you can see, you need to serve the birds every now and then. You can just serve them little so that after 2 hours or when they finish, you can serve another one. That fresh feed, attract them to eat more. So you don't want to dump all the feed on them every now and then at the same time. So you give them bit by bit, bit by bit, and then as they are walking around. Of course, there's wood shavings everywhere. There's a chances or high chance of them defecating inside the feeders, inside the drinkers, and you saw the wood shavings entering the drinkers. So you have to be removing all these things so that the boss can have access to feed and drinkers. So as you can see, this is a good brooder and the birds are doing well. And if you intend to raise your chicken or brood your chickens inside our cage, we brood our point of lay inside the cage. We also brood them on the floor. There's also a technique I want to share with you. You can brood your pullets. If you have a brooder cage, we have brooder cage. This brooder cage, you cannot use it for battery cage, for adult bots, because it has no adjustment, the drinker adjuster. It has no drinker adjuster. Secondly, the net is smaller for the chickens, for the day-old chickens to be able to stay on compared to the adult feeders, adult battery cage. The adult battery cage, the holes are so big, so if you place day-old chicks, the chicks will actually, go out and you're going to have a lot of issues. So we use this to brood our chickens, point of lay, and we also brood them on the floor. And after the brooding, let's say after 4 weeks or after 6 weeks, we transfer them to a brooder and grower cage like this. So you can decide to brood your chickens inside cage, but you need to invest in it for you to be able to brood in this kind of brooder. And so one of the alumni who participated in our training has never seen people brooding inside the cage, and for the first time she saw it and she decided to brood her chickens inside the cage like this, and she really loved it. One good thing about brooding your chickens inside the cage is that it makes things super easy for you. You can walk around easily. Your chickens as well grow faster because they are not running up and down. Your chickens are also clean, and then disease prevention is actually high because the chickens are not, uh, going up and down and spreading diseases. Another good thing about raising your chickens inside a cage like this is the cocci issue. So if you raise your chicken inside battery cage like this, brooder cage like this, you're not going to spend money on coccidiosis, outbreak, and so on. So this is a good brooding system, and I highly recommend it if you can afford it. But if you raise your chickens on the deep litter housing system, is really good. I love chickens raised on the floor. I also love chickens raised inside the battery cage. So this is our cages that we install for our client. It's a brooding cage and broiler cage. So you can use it to brood your birds, and they will grow inside it until they are old enough to be transferred inside the adult battery cage. So this is just to show you how it look like. The drinkers that you are seeing, you are going to remove, you're going to adjust it as they are aging. Then the supplementary feeders that we put inside, we retrieve them after 3 or 7 days, because by that time they can easily access the feed through the cage feeders. And then we also place one drinker inside the cell for about 3 days, so that the ones that cannot access or don't know how to use nipples can take water from the drinkers that we place inside. So this is natural high temperature. Natural high temperature zone may not require you to have heating source. As we move on, you're going to see this. Look at this. Look at this. For example, if you are brooding your chicks in area where the temperature is really high, for example, the inside is really, the temperature is high, you don't need to stress yourself over heating source. The temperature, the outside temperature is high enough, and the inner temperature is also high enough. So you roll with the natural temperature, because the natural temperature is even more than 36 degrees Celsius, or is up to 35 or 36 degrees Celsius. So you can flow with it. Another thing I want to chip in is you using this. I think I've already said that before. So the first 30 hours of chick's life, it cannot differentiate what is feed and what is not feed. Therefore, brooding paper is recommended but not compulsory to help these chicks to access feed in all directions and to prevent them from ingesting wood dust, litter, or beddings, because at this age they peck at anything they can see, and so at times they ingest wood dust, which can actually lead to CRD later, and we don't want that. So we use brooding paper to cover some portion of the brooder, just to avoid all these things. And then the brooding paper help us to sprinkle, our feed, so that any direction, whenever they peck, they can eat. So this is just to show you an idea of how we do it, and you get this material. So as you can see, the chicks are doing well, and I've explained this. Thermometer is your best friend during brooding, and it will guide you. So you check on the balls periodically, remove beddings from the feeders, remove the feces from the chicks tray, and also check on your birds periodically. So chicks are doing well, as you can see. If you have your birds and you do the needful like this, of course you have high survival rate. Can you see? You check, you remove the beddings from your feeders, from your drinkers as well, and then you check on them. And if you do that, your boss will do amazingly well. So what do they eat? I've told us before, during the brooding phase, we give them a broiler starter or a chick mash if you are brooding layers. And if you are brooding broilers, of course, you give them broiler crumble or pellet or mash. But the best form to present feed to your chicks is actually in crumble form during the brooding phase. And so depends on the feed available. Anywhere you are in the world, commercial feed, there are commercial feed producers, and there are good feed that you can buy. So just to guide you. So basically, these are just the nutritional specifications. When we move to the management, I'm going to show you more on how to calculate some of these things. So there are two parameters that we use to grade a poultry feed, or to make us to grade the quality of a feed: the metabolizable energy and the crude protein. This nutritional guide is for roasteroid, we cover for other broiler breeds. So the starter, the energy level, which is the metabolizable energy in the feed, should be 3,000 kilocalories. Then the grower should be, the energy level should be 3,100 kilocalories. Now let us look at the crude protein. We use two parameters: the metabolizable energy and the crude protein. The crude protein is actually the protein in the feed, the protein level in the feed. So look at that of starter. The protein is this genetic company is saying that your feed should be 23%. The protein level should be 23%. So if your protein level is 23% and then your metabolizable energy is 23%, is 3,000 kilocalories, and then your chickens will do absolutely well. They will grow at the right time and they will meet the body weight target set by the genetic companies. However, if there is deviation from this, your chickens, they may not meet the body weight target they're supposed to meet at a particular age. For example, at let's say 28 days, they're supposed to weigh 1.9 kg. But if your chicken, if your feed, the feed you are using is of low quality, let's say the crude protein is around 16.5 percent, and then the metabolizable energy is around 2,500, they cannot meet that body weight target set by the genetic company at 28 days. So the quality feed actually is very important to meet the body weight target set by the genetic company. So this is just a summary of the layers, the crude protein, and the metabolizable energy for layers. So during the growing phase, the chicks or the starter should be around 2,900 kilocalories, and then the crude protein should be 18%. The lysine, the calcium level, and so on, you don't need this. What you need is actually the metabolizable and the crude protein. Once you have the right metabolizable energy and the crude protein, other ones usually are not really important. So your grower, the metabolizable energy should be 2,700 kilocalories, and your pre-layer, the metabolizable energy can be 2,000 to 2,500 kilocalories, and they will be fine. Then we have what we call layer 1, layer 2. For most poultry farmers, they don't know that there is what we call layer 2. So as we move on in this training, you are going to know when we use layer 2. Layer 2, we use layer 2 around 60 weeks old downward, because the chickens, they are aging. Layer 1, we use layer 1 once the chicken attain 5% production rate until they get to 60 weeks old. So just to show you all these things, these are not necessary. Basically, these are brooding management, and you may likely going to see something like this. If you see something like this, it means that the water availability in the brooder, that is, that particular chick didn't get enough water, and then you have what we call pistil vent or pistil boot. Then the feed texture may be rough or maybe too big for this chick, so you need to check that. Then the temperature regulation, maybe the temperature is too high. This happened to one of our clients and also one of our alumni, and she sent the picture and I knew what was happening. And that is the advantage of being part of this training, because if you have issue, you just need to send us a picture or tell us what is happening, and we'll be able to guide you, because we know what is happening to chickens due to experience. So I told her rather, that the temperature was too high, because the first thing I asked her to do is to use thermometer and tell me the thermometer reading. And the thermometer reading was so high, and I asked her to remove some of the eating salts. So she was using a lot of charcoal pot, and I asked her to remove few of them, and automatically that reduced the temperature. And afterward, nothing happens again. She didn't have them again. So about 5 of them were having this, and I asked her to scrape the boots and then, separate the birds from the rest and give the birds adequate care, and all of them survive. So these are some of the reasons. I stated them on the slide, so you can read them up. And so I'm not going to repeat this again, just to show you can read them up. Cage brooding. And so thank you so much for your time. I would like to have your questions right now. Tomorrow we are going to go deeper into the growing phase of layers and the management, and then the laying phase and the management, and then broiler growing phase and management. Okay, Mr. Deji, want to ask question? Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. Where I am right now, it's very noisy, so I'm going to base the question. They can help me answer. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. I'll wait your question. Okay, okay.
Okay, said it.
Okay. So I'm going to read it. Aside from aesthetics and price, what are the other differences between imported and local cages with respect to source of materials, durability, overall health of birds? And B, what are the difference between the hot dip and cold dip wire cages? C, what is the mechanism of waste disposal, removal for the high-rise and elevated system? Is it manual? Okay, so the first question, aside, basically there's no much difference when it comes to the two cage options, the local and the imported one. In terms of aesthetics wise, the imported one looks really, really beautiful. So if you are concerned about aesthetics, then local ones, they're not really good because they improvise the feeders and so on. And so I don't recommend that if you are interested in the aesthetics. So as you can see from the slide, the local ones do not look really nice. They don't look nice, but they get the job done. They get the job done for you. Then the second question is between the imported and local. Okay, overall health. Another thing I discovered, the local ones, most times these people, they don't know how to fabricate the cages. So the egg basket is not properly constructed. So most times they tend to have high cracks rate. So you may get a lot of cracks because of the way they teach the egg basket or the base. Another thing I've discovered with these local ones based on my visit to farms is that the the feces tends to, they don't construct them well, especially the one they do not construct well. The feces tend to fall on the chickens, on the lower level. So the chicks that, or the layers that enjoy are the ones on top. The ones occupying the second tier and the first tier tend to suffer. And so if you have a good fabricator that can fabricate it very well for you, you can go for the locally fabricated ones. They are cheaper, but the difference is not really much in terms of the difference, about 50,000 naira. But if that really matters to you, then you have to go for this one. Otherwise, the imported one look more appealing. Then you ask, okay, about durability. Durability depends on the person that is fabricating the battery cage for you. Depends the kind of wire. In Nigeria, there's what we call Ghana wire. So if you want somebody to fabricate, Poultry Care does not fabricate cages, but we have partners that fabricate cages. Our cages are all imported cages. So if you want to fabricate, some of our installers can fabricate for you, and we have some partners who can fabricate quality cages for you. Now, if they are fabricating, you have to let them know the quality of wire. There are some wires that will rust really, really fast, while there are some that will not rust fast. And the best wire that we use for locally fabricated is actually what we call Ghana wire. Ghana wire is more, preferable because it's galvanized and it tends to last longer based on my experience in the industry. So Ghana wire for local cage is actually better compared to those Chinese or the made in Nigeria wires. Then deep, cold deep, and hot deep. When it comes to galvanization, we have different types of galvanization. We have what we call hot deep, galvanization technique, and hot deep galvanization technique. We also have what we call, marine galvanizing, So these are technique, and the cold dip and the hot dip. The hot dip, the technique is deeping the wire. The wire you are seeing, all these wires you are seeing, you dip them inside after you fabricate the wires or the wire itself. After you cut them or before you cut them, you dip them inside a molten zinc. Zinc has a very, corrosion resistance. So zinc form a layer on the iron. We all know that when iron reacts with oxygen, corrosion takes place. Now, zinc does not react with oxygen. So corrosion does not take place easily, or it's kind of really difficult for corrosion to take place because zinc does not react with, oxygen. But iron react with oxygen. Hence the reason why when water touches, iron metal like this, it corrodes, start corroding. And when you paint it, it's kind of prevent corrosion to some extent. Now, the technique we use to prolong the service life or the lifespan of a wire when it comes to battery cage is what we call the hot dip and the cold dip. So the hot dip simply means that it's a technique whereby you melt the zinc. You have zinc iron, you melt it inside a bowl. It's a technique, that's a way it's done. Then the wire, you dip it inside. When you dip it inside, it covers the wire, it cooks it, and then it forms a thin layer on the wire to protect that wire from reacting with oxygen. So that is the technique. The cold one simply means that you do not, dip the wire inside a molten zinc. What we do in this case is that in a cold way, we just dip it inside a molten zinc that is not cooked. The layer does not form on it like that. Another method is that you spray the zinc. You spray the zinc on it like painting. You paint the stuff, just to give it a coat. But you can't compare that coating, that layer, to the one you dip inside molten zinc. So that is the reason, and these are just the difference between hot dip galvanized and cold dip galvanized. I'm going to summarize this. The hot dip galvanized simply means a protection technique we use to prolong the shelf life or the service life of a wire or a battery cage by dipping the wire or the cage inside a molten zinc to form a protective layer on the wire. While the cold dip galvanized, we just spray the zinc, or we just dip it inside a cold zinc so that it can protect the surface. So the cold dip is more or less like, painting sort of. So the one that lasts longer is the hot dip because it is cooked and it forms a better corrosion resistance. So it's just the same wire, but different corrosion prevention technique. And because of the dip, we are dipping the wire inside a molten zinc, the hot dip galvanized is more expensive because you are dipping it inside zinc. And the one you are spraying, you can't compare the cost. The C, which is the third question, what is the mechanism of waste disposal, removal for the high-rise? So it's manual. So you can decide to leave the high-rise. Where is it again? You can decide to leave it for as long as you want. Like this one, you can decide to evacuate. All the feces will be dropping. Can you see? They will drop down, drop down. And after 6 months or a year, it will heap up, it will heap up. Then after 6 months or a year, you can even call people that buy manure to come and remove it themselves. See, you don't need to even stress yourself. They will come and remove the waste themselves. Or you can bag it, you ask your staff to go inside and bag it because it's already hip hop. So you can also decide to use what we call, can install manure scraper machine under it. That means you are going to have a pit under it, and then manure scraper will scrape it to one level at the end of the level, at the end of the penthouse for you. So it will remove it. Let's say every week you will use manure scraper to scrape it down so that when you want to remove it, let's say after 6 months or a year, you don't need to go under this thing. But it's pure waste of money to do that, to install manure scraper. All you need to do is just allow it to heap up, and then once it is time, people will go on that to bag it and you take it. So super easy and make waste removal super easy. I would like to take, Farmer Rose, I would like to take your question.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Thank you for the presentation, sir. So my question is about the fascination for the day old, the one they did at Astri or day one or at farm.
Okay.
So my question about that one is maybe, let me say, due to past experience.
Okay.
If I have a trust issue about, the thing, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if they told me that, okay, they tell me that, okay, this bird are already fascinated, but to my own reason, I have that trust issue. So can I redo the vaccine, or it will lead to overdose? Or is it advisable to redo it?
Okay. Thank you for that question.
Yeah,
Thank you for that question. And so it depends on the source. If you get your boss from the right source, for example, I know about Poultry Care and some good companies like Agrited, Hatchery, Zatec, all these CHI, all these hatcheries, top hatcheries, they vaccinate their bots against the MD, which is Marais disease. So they give them Marais disease vaccine. So I can beat my chest to tell you that they vaccinate their bots and you don't need to carry out another vaccination. Now, concerning overdose, it can lead to overdose, but we look at it as, booster. So instead of giving the vaccine immediately, for example, they are giving them today at the hatchery and you take delivery the following day. You don't need to vaccinate them again that immediately. You can wait for like 2 days before you carry out the Marex vaccination. So I've seen some farmers who carry out Marex disease vaccine at their farm immediately they arrive. For me, you're just wasting your vaccine because they have been given. And at the hatchery, they have amazing equipment that get these things done really well. And top hatcheries, they carry out MD vaccination. But ND and IB, you have to pay extra money if you're getting from some sources. They may not administer the ND and IB at the artery for you. That is to say, the Newcastle disease and the infectious bronchitis. So you can decide to do that after 7 days on your farm. But if you are getting your bird from poultry care, we pay extra to get ND and IB done, so that when you get the birds, you don't need to carry out ND and IB vaccination immediately. You can wait for 7 days or 8 days before you carry out another vaccination. So I would say you shouldn't carry out another vaccination if you're getting the birds from a reliable source, and you can carry out another vaccination a day or 2 days after taking delivery if you have trust issue. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, okay, thank you. But another one, sir, please. I don't know, maybe here's the right place to ask this. I know poultry care construct pen and do all this stuff. So how can I get somebody to attend to me on that?
Okay. So you can send message to any of the two numbers in the group, the admin in the group, and someone will
Okay.
come to you.
Okay, thanks.
So over to you, from a promise. From a promise, I think. Okay.
Hello.
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 Okay, I posted a question. I just wanted to ask with regards cost wise and health wise,
Okay.
what would you say is advisable? Is it to produce your own feed or to buy a ready-made feed?
Okay. Thank you for that amazing question. When it comes to this kind of question, I usually advise people to produce their feed if their farm is big enough. Because if you have, for example, 1,000 birds capacity, and I ask you to produce your feed, the thing is, you are going to get a misa, you are going to get hammer mill, you're going to get other equipment. Do you have money for those setup? For example, if you have money for the setup, fantastic. I would advise that you produce your own feed. But as a small farmer, you may not have money to invest in those kind of equipment. Now, if you're a big farmer, then making your own feed is super easy and advisable. For example, if you have 5,000 and above, you can decide to produce your own feed, and it's cheaper. Producing your own feed is cheaper because the commercial feed milling companies, they are buying corn from the open market. They are not farming corn. And you also have an advantage. You can go to remote villages and get the feed ingredient really cheap to produce your own feed at a cheaper rate. Most of our clients who have big farms, they produce their own feed, and most of them, they make extra profit by milling their own feed. So if you have 5,000 and above, I can recommend you mill your own feed, or if you have 3,000 and above, and then you have the fund to invest in the equipment, producing your own feed is always the best. If you are producing your feed, for example, you can decide to add medication inside. You can decide to add some local herbs, inside. You can decide to do a lot of things, and you know the quality of the feed because you are the one producing it. And producing feed is so easy if you have the formula and you know the necessary things. We teach professional feed formulation, and uh, about 60% of them, they have commenced, feed formulation. And so you can start feed formulation. It's super easy. All you need is get the right ingredient and then produce your own feed. So producing your own feed is cheaper compared to buying ready-made feed. The problem is that you are going to buy these ingredients in bulk. For example, the calcium phosphate, uh, lysine or premise, you are supposed to buy them, and stock. And the maize, which we supply the energy, and the soybean meal, you are supposed to buy them in bulk. For example, for a month, if you really want to reduce cost of production, you are supposed to buy them for a month, what can last you for a month. Unlike when you want to buy already made feed, you have money for 100 bucks, you go to the market and buy, or you have money for just 5 bucks, you go and buy. When you want to produce your own feed, you cannot do that. If you want to produce 5 bucks, you don't go to market and start looking, unless you're a very small scale farmer and you're not formulating professional feed. But if you're producing professional feed, your PKC, your maize, and so on, you have to buy them. You have to buy what can last you for, a month. So do you have the fund to do that? If you have the fund to do that, I advise that you produce your own feed. I hope I was able to answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay, so someone says, what is the ideal brooder gas for chicks when brooding on the floor? Brooder size, okay, for 1,000 pullets for broilers. I will advise you go for 2. You can get 2 brooder gases. The standard is that 1 brooder gas can brood 500 chicks. So if you have 1,000, you can get 2 brooder gases to be able to supply the necessary heat that your chicks require. How do you measure the right intensity for the bots? So you're going to use a sensor for concerning the light. The light is just to illuminate. You can use a sensor that will tell you the loss. And you can decide to also use your initiative. Is the place really, really bright during our brooding period, the first 3 days or the first 1 week? You want to use a lot of bulbs. You can increase the watts, or all those, energy saving bulbs, you can use those ones, and you can buy, the high ones. So it will illuminate the place, very sharp. And then as they are aging, you can just remove the bulb. You remove the bulb just to reduce the intensity. So you just use your discretion when it comes to the intensity, especially if you do not have the sensor. But if you have the sensor, you just follow the sensor. And if the intensity is not much, then you add more bulbs. And if the intensity is too high, then you reduce the bulb, or you remove the bulbs, or you change the bulbs to lower watts. Someone has, I mean, brooding floor size space. Okay. Don't worry, once we get to that place, we are going to calculate, okay? We are going to calculate it together. Once we get to poultry mats and accounting, that is where we do calculations, and we will do it together. Now I'll be able to show you the space required during brooding, the space required during our growing phase, and the space required during the laying phase. We'll be able to calculate together. It's so fun. So once we get there. So someone says housing capacity of brooding pullet and 1,000. And so it's still the same thing. Once we get there, you're going to see the size of the brooder that you're going to need for your size. Once we teach you, or once I expose you to the calculation, you can calculate any size for the number of birds you have. So it depends on the number of birds you want to brood and the number of birds you have. Okay, so if you have more questions, I would like to get them. From our OG says, is temperature regulation still a necessity when the chicks get to 16 weeks? Or okay, so once the chicken get to 16 weeks old, you don't need temperature regulation. Temperature regulation is actually during the brooding period. Once they get to 16 weeks old, that's what we call lighting program. So once we get to the management aspect of this training, you are going to see the lighting program. After the brooding phase, they don't need it again. What they need is light, what we call lighting program. So once they are out of the brooding phase and they can regulate their temperature, you are going to flow with the natural temperature. And if you are using environmentally controlled housing system, you're going to maintain the temperature between 25.5 degrees Celsius to 26 or 27 degrees Celsius. But you that is, operating open-sided, you're going to flow with the, natural light or natural temperature. If it is cold that day or it rains that day, you just, cover the place with tarpaulin if you believe that they are cold. And if they are not cold, you don't need to use tarpaulin. You just, remove it. So you're going to flow with the natural temperature. So after 6 weeks or 7 weeks, you don't need any heat again. They have enough, feather to regulate their own temperature. Okay, so if you have questions, please go ahead.
So my question is with regards to high-rise houses or
Okay,
pen.
okay,
So I don't know. I'm just seeing the pen, and you said the feces will be on the floor for like 6 months. I was wondering, won't the nitrogen content affect the health of the birds?
okay. Thank you for that amazing question. As you can see, this is it. This is iris pen. So the feces will go down. Because they go down, what actually makes ammonia gas to what is it called? The chicken dropping to release ammonia gas a lot is because of interaction with water. Naturally, if water does not touch the chicken feces and the whole place is dry, the chicken feces will be dry. It will dry, it will not attract flies, and the flies now, try to decompose it and all of that. But if there's no, water, a lot of water touching it, automatically it will dry. It will not really dry completely, but the gases will be released, and because breeze is blowing, there's better cross ventilation, it will not affect the buds. The intensity will not be high. As we move on in this training, you are going to see the level of ammonia gas that affect buds. We have a sensor and you're going to see it. So at 25 ppm, if your sensor reads 25 ppm, the buds are okay. It will not affect them. But anyway, it depends on what happens on your farm. Some farms, they leave their feces up to 1 year. Some leave their feces up to 6 months. Depends on what is happening. But the good thing about this housing system is that it gives you the freedom, to remove your feces easily, conveniently, without stressing anybody, as you can see. And it depends on how high the distance between the ground floor and where you install the battery cage. Some that are really, really high, they can leave you for more than 1 year, So it depends on the level, the height. But like this one you are seeing right here, at least 6 months, you can remove it and the ammonia level will not disturb. And you can also decide to remove it every 2 months. It all depends on what is happening on the farm. But generally, we remove the feces 6 months, 1 year, depends on the distance between ground level and the boards. I hope I was able to answer your question. You were out of the class at some point, and I hope that when you watch the video, you get answer. Hello, are you active in class now? Okay, she's not active in class. So if you have question, I would like to.
Just my reception VIP 1 or 2.
Okay, please go ahead. Please go ahead. Oh my God. It's out of the class. So if you have questions, Mr. Promise, you want to ask question, you raise your hand. Okay, I think I was able to answer all the questions. So if you have more questions, you can drop it in the WhatsApp group and we would attend to your question. I want to thank you for being part of today's session, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Please ensure you come to class early tomorrow, and please do me a favor. If you are in class, I advise that you mute yourself so that the class will not be disturbed. If you have questions, please, you can drop it in the chat box, in the group rather, and I'll be able to respond to you. Thank you so much for still being in class. See you tomorrow by God's grace. Bye-bye.